Is April 12th, it's like 7:04, 10:03. This is the Arundel Planning Board, and let me start with call to order. And a roll call.
Okay, Marty Kane.
Tom McGinn.
Ron Warren. Chip Bassett.
Rich Brown.
Ken Bergen.
Ted Redway, Town Planner.
Okay. The agenda. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as written. I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion, anything you guys wanna take off or put on?
Can you go home?
No?
Well, then there's nothing I wanna change.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, thank you. Okay, then we've got approval of minutes from March 15th. Let's do this one at a time, so let's start with March 15th.
One little question on, this is the 15th one,
Yeah.
on the fourth page, item 2, at the bottom, Chair Bass confirms with the board that there's agreement and setback for shoreline over wetlands, with the question marks, right? I'm not sure if it's a question or
I'm
just a
sorry, where?
statement. On the fourth page,
Oh, unintentional question.
should that just be a
Period.
okay. Other than that, everything looks good to me.
Anybody else have any comments on the March 15th? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay. Motion carries. Take care of that. All right. Okay, next item is the March 22nd minutes. Everybody have those? Can I have a motion?
Move we approve.
As written. I'll second.
Okay, let's discuss.
Yeah,
Any comments?
yeah, I have only one question. It's after we agreed and everything else about, the fee,
For Larry?
yeah, Labby. Is that, we agreed upon it, but trying, who makes the decision?
Selectmen.
Yeah, is it the selectmen or was it, has it been forwarded to them or anything else? That's my next.
What decision, Marty?
It says Labby asked the board to, a full set of lot fees will be required for payment against it. He has been given a partial reimbursement by the town.
We sent that to the selectmen at the special town meeting, and they kicked it, it got voted and approved, and they kicked it back to us and said we were gonna figure out the fee structure. Isn't that what they said?
It's already been adopted.
Yeah.
Not the fee structure, but
See, he's paid a fee, but he got some of it back.
Yeah, I think the issue was whether he was gonna have to pay the whole thing again, and he said no, only the part that you
Reimbursed.
correct.
That's what I'm just asking if it's been, I mean, it's not part of the minutes, it's just,
It is in the minutes, actually. Tom made a motion and Yen seconded it.
yes.
And there was a unanimous vote in favor unless
Well,
that
he had
doesn't
paid,
reflect the
he had
record.
paid all of his fees at one point, and for some reason, the town reimbursed him a portion of it. And he wanted to know if he had to come up with the entire fee again. And the motion was no, he had to repay the town the portion that he had been
Reimbursed.
We didn't reimburse him for any of those fees.
According to him,
Yes.
well, if he wasn't reimbursed, then
For
there's
something
nothing
else,
to.
on another project. That had nothing to do with those fees.
well, he thought it had something to do with the fees, and he asked us That was what his question was
Well, if
about.
he didn't get a reimbursement, he's not gonna get, he doesn't have to pay anything back either.
Do you know what, how much the reimbursement was?
No, and he didn't
We
say,
didn't go into details.
Right.
he just said that he had been reimbursed for a portion of it.
All right, let me ask you this, is he being, are you considering him to be a final application? Or is he going, he's going through final, not preliminary and final, is that correct?
This is
Yes.
preliminary. This,
Wait a second, that's
No,
the
no.
exact
we-
opposite.
No, we said that it was a final.
Okay,
we were reviewing final, I thought we determined it was complete.
We determined it was
We
complete.
determined completeness,
So-
but we determined completeness as a final application, not as a preliminary.
okay,
You had given us a couple of different,
I don't know whether
Scenarios.
now or under other business is the time
Under
for
other
me to,
business would be-
pardon?
Under other business would be.
Okay, I'm just bringing it up as a question so that we're not. That's all I was asking.
So that doesn't affect,
No, it doesn't affect it. No, but I'm just asking for discussion at another time along the way, so it's not here, there, wherever.
so
Thank
a motion and a second on that.
I don't have any more discussion.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I abstain. Okay. Now we come to the item 3, citizen comments. This is where any taxpayer or resident of Arundel can bring something to the board's attention which is not on the agenda for this evening.
Nobody's here.
Everybody here has got something on the agenda, so I guess we'll open and close the citizen comments. Okay, pending business. Item 4, Amani Acres, minor subdivision pre-application, proposal for a 4-lot standard subdivision on 23 acres located off Brimstone Pond, tax map 18, lot 1A, in the R4 and RP districts. Gary and Carrie Bracy are the owners and applicants, and Hunter Post Land Surveying is the consulting agent. Gentlemen, why don't you start with the presentation?
Presentation is, pretty much, same as last time we were here. Nothing has changed on the proposal. Now that we've had a chance to see it, once again, I guess the couple major items that are on this plan that need to be discussed is the flood zone. And the only waiver where we're gonna request is gonna be for drainage. There's no road construction here, so we will put direct culverts under all the driveways. And as Chris has said at the sidewalk, they've already proposed this crossing with a 3-foot diameter culvert. These lots have all been soil tested, they all passed the soil test. This plan is already way beyond the sketch plan. So when we come back to the board, we'll be coming back with the details of the meets and bounds and monuments set, driveway locations determined on each lot with site distances. And we will submit an application that itemizes your requirements and addresses each requirement.
You had topo on it, didn't you? As I
There's
recall?
already 2-foot LiDAR topo on here, which is accurate to within 6 inches.
Even through that cover, huh? Is it?
That stuff is just amazing. Every time I check it, it amazes me. And how the
Almost puts you out
technology
of
is,
business, you know?
doesn't put me out of business, but it puts the aerial mappers out of
It
business.
certainly does, yeah. We heard from Sewell all the time. The only other thing was, could you put on basically the location of that drainage swale along the property line?
Sure.
We'll need that. And Mr. Chairman, I have some other comments, if I may.
Yes.
Okay. And also, Chris, we had talked about identifying the size of those wetlands, so we can determine. I've obviously made an error in reading that, but if you could give us an area of those wetlands.
Yep.
That they do or do not qualify for shoreline overlay status.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is on the sidewalk, we mentioned about the different test pits, and if in the back of two of them that are not needed,
But we're removing from.
I'm just, so it's just clear that I'm just along that line.
They have to be removed and.
Well, there's not,
That's correct.
one of them per se was in the no-cut zone. I mean, and if it's no-cut zone, can't very well use an existing test pit there, because it's a non-disturbable area.
So I'm curious, you said you were going to be asking a waiver.
For a drainage study.
Okay.
For a drainage study?
Well, the drainage, a drainage design, there's nothing to design, we're only putting in driveways, there's no road coming in. Typically, you don't design, have an engineer design building footprints. So that's what we're asking the waiver for. There's nothing gonna be,
Is there actually a requirement for a drainage study?
Yeah, there is.
If I
In fact,
remember,
even the applicant has put it, if you go to, well, there's some pictures, but if you go to section 12.4, stormwater management design guidelines, drainage easements for existing water courses or proposed drainage ways should provide these. It just goes through all the design statements that you need for any stormwater drainage.
so for the swale that's over here by the neighbor's property, we'll be sticking an easement along it that meets that requirement. If the board feels that we need to add some easement along the front of the lots for the ditch drainage, we can do that as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you about that, Dana. Is the drainage, basically, does it run in a direction from, well, as you are oriented, from your left to your right, in that direction, along the
I gotta
road?
get the labels.
which way is it flowing?
There's 108, there's 110. So what happens is right here, there's like a divide. That's 110, that's 110, that's 108. So it's tending to go this way, and that's because it's so flat here, it's just setting here.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, so,
Yeah. So I mean, if the board feels we need to add some drainage easement across the front of this, in case the town needs to widen or improve the ditches, whatever, we can do that.
I'm sorry, what was the easement you were talking about a moment ago, please? Where on the map is that?
Pardon?
You said something about it,
Right near that the furthest lot up, there was that ditch that ran into the woods along the boundary line. We'll go in and we'll locate that ditch, and we'll create a wide enough drainage easement that sets along that.
so that ditch would drain to the road?
I'm guessing that's why that was dug, was to facilitate the water from, away from the road, and that's why it's there.
You think it's going away from the road?
Well, it's really hard to say, it's so flat there, I just think they dug the ditch and the water just sits there.
so the easement you're proposing would be in favor of the town?
That's correct.
And so it would run along this property line here?
That's correct. It would also benefit the butter as far as the water that's going that way.
There's a drainage that runs right.
There's not gonna be anything
Yeah, yeah.
proposed to do to the ditch other than just, it's gonna stay there, and nobody can touch it,
But with an easement, the town will be able to go in and clean it up if needed.
if it's needed, correct.
Hmm.
One other question to the chair.
Yes, sir.
We were talking at our last meeting about being in the flood zone and not in the flood zone. and about having the buildings, elevated, everything else. When we come back, after determining whatever it is, you may wanna put it on the plan so that we have it on record, but also too, that the owners who are buying it, that it will state,
As part of the
we
next,
discussed that last time.
as part of the next plan that
Yeah.
comes to you, we'll be putting an elevation to that flood zone. And then the buildings will have to be 1 foot, Ted, above that?
The living areas have to be 1 foot above.
1 foot above that.
flood stage, yeah.
And what we discussed at the last meeting was the possibility of crafting a note that says that if the new flood maps are approved and this flood zone disappears, then that requirement also disappears. Because at that point, there's no need to elevate the building.
Right.
Yeah, that would be approved.
And there are only two of the 4 building sites are
That's correct, they're gonna be close.
close to the existing but possibly incorrect. Now, the process for those floodplain maps to get changed is what?
This flood zone doesn't even exist on this property,
But-
which is probably the reality.
No,
is-
but you said something about a process that the state had to
That's correct.
do something first, and then the town would need to do.
Right. The-
Tell me, who at the state does what, and then what happens with the town?
FEMA has come up with these new maps
Yeah,
with new flood zones
yeah.
and throughout the country. So that it's a nationwide thing that FEMA did. And each state has to approve these maps. And they were issued, I think, beginning of 2017 or the end of 2016, with a time period associated with the town approving them. Each municipality had their opportunity to voice their concerns or put their input into these maps. And I think that time frame has passed along, but now we're waiting for the state to approve these maps. And once they're approved, then I'm assuming, because each town has their zoning, shoreline zoning associated with the current maps, they're gonna have to vote on the new ones.
Dana, is the approval happen by default if there is an objection to it by first at each level, at the state level and then
I have no
town?
idea.
I mean, I would think they'd have to keep the process dynamic and,
Correct. This process actually started in 2013. They had so many of the municipalities concerned and complained, they pulled it back. The legislation was passed, they just never enacted it. So they're still
That's
working
federal
on
or
that
state?
process.
Is it the state legislature that has to take action?
It was the
Or
federal
is-
government that
Yeah, I know
enacted
the federal government, I understand FEMA, the federal government has done what they're doing. But when you say the state
right,
approves the new maps,
the
the kind
legislature.
of amorphous, it's the legislature.
Correct.
Okay.
Then the town.
Is
once
it
that's
county
the-
and
Well,
town?
once the state does it, right, and the towns, I don't know how that all works, but the town is either gonna be forced to honor these maps, or and at that point, they're gonna have to vote on them anyways, because your zoning is associated with the current maps.
Has the
If
town,
If we do not do that, then what it does is it puts our residents in jeopardy of not qualifying for flood insurance.
so
So-
that's the,
That's the
okay.
stick.
That's
There
what I
are,
wanted.
there were municipalities that were not participating in that, and those residents couldn't buy flood insurance.
But there's not all that much that we can do as a board.
No.
That's a legislative process,
Correct.
including being approved by town. I don't see it being a problem, it's just gonna take time.
Right, and that's why we like to
Just-
craft a note that allows us that flexibility, so we don't have to come back to the board
Yeah.
for a
So
note.
you covered it
Right.
in the way.
through the chair,
Makes sense.
through the chair, yes, has the town been approached on these?
We've had enough for a while.
Okay,
It's really, the lead on this is the code enforcement officer, he is the floodplain officer.
okay, I didn't know, that's why I'm asking
But
again.
he has to go by the old maps for now.
We have to go by the old maps until such time that we approve the new maps, and he won't even go there approving the new maps until the state acts.
Has the state done anything? Are they dragging their feet?
Well, no, they're not dragging their feet, they're so, they shut down the public hearing process. Or they shut down, they reduced down the public hearing process. I think they still have one more public hearing to go, I think.
Well, it's assigned to at the end, I guess.
Yeah.
So can we go back to something I thought I heard you say, I just want a clarification. Do you say you're gonna do 1 foot interval, contour?
2 foot.
2 foot.
These are 2 foot contours that are shown on the plan.
Would you say, the 1 foot is, they have to be high, 1 foot higher than?
Right. the living
Within the
area.
flood zone, if the lot is within a flood zone, or the building's gonna be in the flood zone,
Yeah,
it has to be elevated 1 foot above the flood zone.
so the flood zone you do have delineated,
That
Just-
flood zone is basically, is federal government pie in the sky, it really means nothing.
but that's all we have to
But
go by.
we're stuck with it, so
Yeah.
we're gonna pick the highest elevation that it crosses,
Yeah,
and use that as the base flood elevation for that
okay,
area.
all right. And then the homeowner just has to know to be a
Yep.
foot higher.
There'll be notation, there'll be notes on the plan that says the basement has to be X amount of feet above the elevation.
So you won't be indicating where that is, they're just gonna have to figure it out when they build.
Correct.
Okay, good, so that,
It's all a height thing, so
Yeah.
once we pick the elevation, then if, let's say it's elevation 100, then they gotta be at 101.
okay. Good.
You guys putting basements on here?
Well, that's a good question.
I think I do a slab here, especially if it's raised. And what about the septic? Septic's gonna be how far above, or does it?
Septic does
It can't be in the flood zone.
Can't be in the flood zone, so. I think the flood, it's out of the flood, all the
Right.
septics are out of the flood zone.
Yep.
But the buildings are
Well,
within.
So the,
there's one
the lot grid.
that's shown in the flood zone, but my discussion with the Corner Post folks is the one in lot 4, toward the back of lot 4, that's not supposed, that's not part of the plan.
Pardon? The,
The extra.
There's a second test pit.
no, that's gonna be removed, Chip.
I know, I just wanted to get it on record.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
And that's out of the floodplain anyways.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
It's in the blue line of
It's
floodplain.
in the new,
No, that's
it's in the
within
no
the
cut
floodplain.
zone.
This one here will be removed.
That one.
Within the resource protection.
Right.
That's the.
He's talking about this one here.
Oh, it's not-
Blue hash
Yeah.
thing is the
Sorry, I
current
thought you were over here.
floodplain boundary. Okay?
Yeah. I got all the test pits here.
What
So
would be
this
the
thing,
lowest?
this must flow this,
The
does
lowest
this
one was,
flow this way?
The contour, the
Yeah, it
contours are
basically
running,
flows this way.
the contours are running generally this way.
10 inches.
It's two, it's, like I said, it's super flat out here.
Somewhat poorly.
That's 206, that's 208, so the contours are that way.
And you know, that's probably conservative too, use few and distinct instead of common,
Okay.
So can I ask a question, just curious about the leach field, does that all have to be a foot higher than?
Well, basically, based on the subsurface wastewater rules, they're deconditions, because they have evidence of groundwater within 15 inches.
Yeah.
It's between 9 and 15 inches, so it's not a wetland, but it's the next drainage class, and the separation distance is about, it's 18 inches on a decondition, so the bottom of the system will be
18 inches
about
higher?
anywhere from 6 to 10 inches above grade, so that'll be, so it'll be mounted systems, yeah.
It'll be raised systems.
Mr. Planner,
Yes, sir.
under the current land use ordinance, what kind of screening or buffering along the road is required?
In our 4 districts,
Residential, it don't count,
Just driveways?
it don't count. Harvey homeowner don't have to do it, just only business people.
I believe Marty might be right on that.
I don't remember seeing anything.
You're right. I
Well,
don't
I'm-
believe, well, there's nothing in the R4 district right now. We just verified it before, we say absolutely. I don't believe there's anything in the zoning ordinance about it. That would be 6(8). Okay, maybe not. No, that is 6(8). 11, that's right. So much.
Are you in the subdivision ordinance or the,
First of all, the land use ordinance, then I'll go to subdivision ordinance, but the subdivision ordinance doesn't do things by zone.
Are you in 6(8) or 6(11)?
I'm in 6(11), it should go there.
page, please?
And there's no standards for that. And then,
Minimum setback, if I recall correctly, has to be,
610.
but they're reducing it as part of that. So you're gonna still have your wooded, allotted area there, so you don't need any buffering, everything else there.
I'm sorry, where's that?
New non-residential, that's what it says, new non-residential and mixed.
That's what it really does right now. There are requirements in
Makes
there.
sense, I mean, why would there have to be
I'm not saying that there should be, I'm just,
He's just asking.
later in the meeting, we're discussing buffering and screening, and I wanted to find out what the current rules are, and then if town meeting approves whatever it is we're gonna decide on later, then does that apply to?
No.
To this?
No, it's still, that's basically dealing, the landscape section that we're talking about, really deals with, commercial, those things that require site plan approval, or conditional use approval. This is a subdivision, so it does not count. The confusion is that we've had requirements in the comp plan that the R district, basically the R4 district, is supposed to have buffering from the front, but that has never been enacted.
I'm sorry, what about, was it Brookside Estates on Log Cabin Road?
That was a cluster subdivision, and they had a requirement under the cluster subdivision standards.
Okay, just,
This is not a cluster subdivision. So
Okay.
that's why those standards you're thinking of do not apply in this situation.
okay.
There are inconsistencies.
I'm trying to make sure that
They're- they
that
have
you guys
everything-
don't have any surprises and are clearly delineated in logical land use ordinance, doesn't have any landmines for you.
We are not in the brimstone, the only other thing that would be included from the subdivision standpoint would be being within the brimstone brook
Now,
watershed.
And this is
now,
not.
This is not.
that said, clear cutting from the road to the house might not be, I guess it's not up to us to say anything, never mind.
Well, no, you can't clear cut anyway, you're looking at a maximum of what, 40% of the,
Basil
The
area. Well,
basil?
the area around the house, obviously, you can cut. I mean,
well, yes.
Everybody does. But with the 40% basal area cut is in regard to tree harvesting. Timber harvesting.
And that's within the shoreline zone, correct?
No, that's,
No,
no.
that's anywhere
That's the whole lot?
Oh, that's, no,
But that'd be a huge area, we're talking about 3 and 4 acre lots here, I mean, that would be slaying a lot of trees.
it would be, if associated with a building permit, that does not apply. It's a
Okay.
tree harvesting standard
Oh,
we
I
have
get
on a
you.
townwide
Non-permitted
basis.
uses.
Yeah, I mean, those who are actually have native, basically a woodlot or something, and they go out and they.
So, I just wanna make sure I'm clear on this, because Braces would like to clear a section out back for horses. Is that gonna be a problem? I mean, we're putting a cutting restriction on these lots.
Yeah, I know, I was gonna ask you about that, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm just trying to meet your ordinance, we're trying to protect the resource.
On which
All
lot?
lots.
Well,
and
you see the lot, we have a cutting.
We're having a cutting restriction on all of these, that no cutting will happen within this area.
Are you, the horse, what is it, what kind of facility is it?
I think they just want to be able to put a house out there and have a small pasture for it.
This
And
is on
they're gonna
11
retain
acre
lot
lot?
one?
That's correct.
The plan.
They're gonna own this larger lot, and they're gonna build out here somewhere, not quite sure where, but
Is it gonna be an equestrian facility, commercial?
not that I know of it. I think it's just gonna be, I mean, they just made this comment to me, so I just wanna make, when you're saying there's a restriction on cutting, I just wanna make sure that,
The 40% is timber harvesting.
okay.
If that applied to everything, that'd be tough to do agriculture in this town. And that's not the
Exactly.
intent. The intent of it is to, is essentially, if you're doing timber harvesting for the purpose of timber management and forestry management, you are limited to 40% basal area cut with a permit from the code enforcement officer. Anything over the 40%, you come to the planning board. And the planning board has had some large commercial cuts that they've done. You probably remember it's Curtis Road, the William Cannon property, where we did in fact have a timber harvesting of that property, in which they did do a forestry plan, and we did have the district forester down. He and I walked the plan, we did our prisms and did the measurements.
Yep.
And that did have to receive a planning board approval, also because they had an access issue as well. That's, I don't
Won't go
see
there.
that being a problem.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the yellow lines. It says
Those
no
are no
clearing
cuts.
allowed on this side of the
So-
line, and then no.
Right, so
clearing
Carrie
allowed
Bracy
here.
doesn't need to
This
get
doesn't tie
a
into
permit to
that.
clear an acre or
It goes
two
like this.
for.
It would be best to go see
So
the
these
code enforcement
lots
officer
do not
about
cut
that.
the back
Yeah.
part
And
of their
if she's
lot, this
putting in,
lot can't cut the back part of there. So that
Barn,
preserves
I
all
would
of this
assume
area
you've got a
as
portion of
forest.
the barn.
Okay.
Then it would be
So
associated with
structure,
that.
I have a question about the fire hydrant, and not that, I'm saying you need to put one in, but it says you have to be, if you be located within 500 feet of a fire hydrant.
Then there on,
No, the closest dry hydrant is 6/10 of a mile.
That's right, yeah,
Which is,
in that direction.
It's on it's on one of the pages inside.
which is more than 500 feet.
It's 3,000.
No, 6,000.
1,000.
No, it's 500 feet?
Um,
That 500 feet is when you're actually putting.
1,500. Yeah,
I thought it was a mile.
has to be,
For the rules, if you look.
You're
we're not looking at it, I'm seeing in subdivision 12.1B1,
All right.
fire hydrant connected to a public water supply shall be.
public water
This
supply.
is the public water
Oh,
supply.
There's no public water supply. If you remember, we took care of this
Public water supply.
when we did 5/7
Okay.
last year. We're still not using that. And I believe that the requirement 5/7, you're required to be 1 mile.
Okay.
From
Okay,
the
we're gonna
established
have
water
five-
supply.
five-
Yeah,
Seven?
gentlemen,
Yeah, look at section 5/7 in the ordinance.
Okay,
Okay.
I couldn't find
Here
it.
too, actually, it's in
Five
the
or seven?
subdivision ordinance as well.
No, it's not 15, from 4 to 7 lots, you're 1,500 linear feet,
where are you?
571,
5/7.
exempt.
And
This is the
the
subdivision?
the subdivision is 6/10 of a mile to the closest dry hydrant.
Question to ask you, are these houses gonna be sprinkled with sprinkler systems?
There wasn't a plan to do that.
I mean, I'm just asking, is,
2,500 linear feet,
2,500 linear.
572 residential fire protection. Proximity to water supply, all residential buildings governed by 571 shall be located within 2,500 linear feet by established travel way of a designated and operational fire department water supply.
Okay, well, if it doesn't meet that requirement, then to answer your question, it'll probably be sprinkled.
that's why,
Yeah,
So,
And we-
where would you bring the parcel
Pardon?
2,500 feet?
Probably the open door
572.
systems, we do those.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just
We
throwing
did
that out
because
to you.
That's the most,
I'm just throwing
we got
that out to you
500
so
feet
that
of
it's not a,
That's why we're
Surprise.
at 25
Yep.
feet, that's, because that's what we carry.
that's right.
No, I don't think we're gonna get surprised with it, because as you can tell, we go through the ordinance pretty heavy.
You
Yeah, you did a good job on
And-
that.
And we tried to address each of your concerns and your submittal requirements and design standards. So if when we come back, that you should have a very complete application.
Well, you're almost here with this one. For
Okay,
sketch, it's
so-
a little beyond the sketch. A lot beyond the sketch. plan.
So what was the, on that, since
They'll
it would
address,
have to be within, you would need some fire.
they might, you know.
Right,
Sprinkler
we'll
something.
review that
Okay.
section, and
Well,
if,
they
That would be for
do
one,
a fire pond.
one or possibly
There's
two of the
enough
lots,
Water,
as opposed to all of them.
But there is no fire pond there.
That's correct.
well, but they could make one.
Yeah,
and the other option is correct, to make a fire pond,
yeah.
You got that huge water supply right there.
pretty much, it's probably a pretty good
You could
groundwater
drain
system there.
Ditch.
I mean, it's a discussion we'll have with I'll have with the owners.
I think you'll find that the inline sprinkler system is cheaper than any other.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely cheap.
Mm.
You know, also
The
reduce
issue
the
that
emissions.
that you have with those is they leak.
Maintenance.
And my daughter has one in her house and it's leaked 3 times.
Hmm.
They've had to tear down their sealants 3 times, and it's just,
Is this a separate
it's a
system?
nightmare.
Is this a separate, or is this,
No, it's a system that's
supply.
tied to the water system.
Huh.
It's a continuous flow system.
Yeah. Huh.
And it's just one of these things that just does this drip every now and then, and it takes a long time for it to come through, but when it comes through, it's a mess.
well, their choice.
So I mean, there's pluses and minuses to it.
Okay, gentlemen, any further discussion of this?
Oh, you do need to make a decision, the planning board does need to, rule on the request for a waiver on stormwater.
Any let me have a motion, gentlemen?
Make a motion, we allow the waiver for the stormwater study.
I'll second that. Okay, do we have any discussion, please?
Yeah, I do have questions, because it is pretty wet, and there is all the flow, we could see it flowing there. I know it won't be disturbing too much, but, why is it that you wouldn't want to have a study?
It's not gonna serve a purpose. Typically, drainage engineering is when you're constructing something and water is flowing from it, it's gotta go somewheres and it can be controlled. There's no real construction here. So we're gonna propose culverts under all the driveways, and if need be, we'll add some drainage easements along the frontage so that the town can maintain that ditch if need be.
So you did agree to put an easement for the drainage?
Yep.
You said show up here. Okay, and other than that, it's just the filling of the driveway to get to lot, the big lot, number 1. That wouldn't impact the flow at all, just have.
The width of 14 feet in the small area that it's gonna do is not gonna create all that much more water. The issue with creating roads and large parking lots is you're taking woodland or lawn and you're paving it,
Yeah.
and the water can't get into the ground. So it's gotta go someplace to run, and when you do that, you have to control that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying the motion is, Corinne, you wanna read back to us, please?
To allow the waiver for stormwater study.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Mr. Planner, is there anything else we need to do with this application this evening?
No, just wait for them to bring back the finalized application.
Just one quick point, the 2-foot contours are okay?
So will we need to have locations of the driveways on the final plan?
Yep.
Okay, so that, you said you'd check out. the,
Yep,
site
they'll be on the
distance.
plan with site distances.
Okay,
And we probably want to talk to Roger Tasher about those locations, make sure he's okay with that.
Sure,
He's the public.
Yeah,
works,
and find out how big he wants the
and I'll
culverts
talk
to
to him
be.
about the culvert size as well.
Exactly.
Don't be surprised if they're 32 foot long.
What's his name, Roger what?
Roger
Sure.
Tasher.
Spell that last name?
T-A-S.
What?
T-A-S-C-H-E-R-E-A-U.
Do you have an email address on the website?
Yeah, it's public, Arundel Public Works.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right?
Thank you.
Right. Okay. We need to
Did it.
evaluate paving, please.
Is it 20 or 30 or 30? For some reason I have, it was still in the back of my car, but I never got it out of there.
Well,
Oh, I don't blame you, I saw it, for some reason I saw it.
Rich,
It's sitting in the back of my car, I don't know why.
Delay.
well,
I never threw it
So
away.
you don't.
strap in, because they'll be up next week.
Tad, stay focused on this, please.
We stepped on a landmine.
Okay, we have a conditional use pre-application for Trottier paving. We had a site walk earlier this afternoon. This is for a contractor yard 2 in the R4 district, located at 44 Tummy's Way. Anthony and Caitlin Trottier are the owners and applicants. Do you have anything you want to present before we start asking questions?
Presentation has been made, we're looking at it there, so.
Okay, we need to discuss before we discuss Bruce Reed's laundry list, I'm sorry, Alan Shepard's laundry list of waivers.
Discuss sidewalk,
Sure.
if there's anything needing to be discussed on the sidewalk, so we can have it.
Well, the only thing that I thought that came up with the sidewalk was that there's some question about the back setback on the line. It runs, I guess, southwest and to northeast. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I had some concerns about the nature of temporary material storage, but that appeared to be addressed, as that it would only be inert materials. I don't know, Mr. Planner, how do we, I have concerns about hot top, with, asphalt, and effectively a conservation zone. And in terms of the kinds of materials that can be stored on site, is there something we can, is there anything in the ordinance that gives us guidance on that? Is that regulated by DEP? What's the?
What we have for performance, if you're concerned about the nature of the material, what we do have, usually bituminous is, short term is inert material, especially when it's cold. When it's cold, it's inert, it becomes hard. Whether or not there's, I don't know what kind of leachate would come out of a large pile of it. The applicant has indicated they're not gonna have a large pile, but I can look into that.
But is that something that could be in the
It is not,
permit, in the conditional use permit, some upper limit on quantities and something requiring that it be inert or in compliance with DEP or something like that. This has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, I mean, it does, but
Yep.
it's just a concern, I know, I mean, Mr. Planner, I've tried to do financings on properties that ran into trouble with a phase one environmental survey because of asphalt that had been stored temporarily on site.
And there was leachate from that?
And ended up needing to do a phase two, and in one case, remediation. So, I think this is
Through the chair, to ask a question,
sure.
is that proposed section that they're speaking of, is that impervious, or is that actually, would it be paved? No, I'm just asking the idea of, so that if it was,
It couldn't penetrate.
so it wouldn't penetrate, that's why you need a, and if
Yeah,
it
I was
was,
thinking the same thing.
I mean, if it was for cleanup, I mean, let's say if it's rocks or whatever it is,
It's easier to
okay?
clean up.
It's easier to clean up and so it wouldn't
And
leach.
you couldn't leach in the ground, yeah. I mean, it would make sense even.
I
on my
mean,
end to do
and
it.
particularly in
Right.
that business.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, no, for sure. I thought about it.
Have a pad that
Right.
wouldn't leach through,
Yep.
if it is an issue.
Well, if the material, when it's rained on, has something
Byproducts.
unfriendly to the environment, it doesn't matter whether there's a pad underneath it or
Well,
not,
you
it's
have-
gonna run off and get
Have a
into
berm
the-
around it though. That's what I'm
So,
thinking.
Yeah, so, Mr. Planner, can you work with the applicant to come up with something that would be explicit in the conditional use permit, requiring that the, you know, putting a cap on the amount of material, and then just, I don't know whether we refer to DEP or whatever, but just something that it is, that it's not toxic material.
What if that was not recycled asphalt, and it was just three-quarter gravel?
Three-quarter gravel is absolutely fine, and the recycled asphalt may be perfectly fine. I don't know, I just,
Yeah.
Isn't that really the question? If there's any leachate produced by that material, period, because if there isn't, then why are we worrying about it?
what I will do, I will contact DEP Hazardous Waste and talk to them about if there's any concern about cold, because you've got cold,
That was probably more on the aggressive side of, that was straight millings.
Yeah.
Your typical reclaim pile, if I dumped the reclaim pile in a pile of gravel, you probably wouldn't even know the difference. I mean, they're both brown.
well, if you could consult with
Mixed with
DEP
gravel.
about, you know,
I will do so.
what's okay and what needs to be paid attention to, and then the permit can specify what kinds of material are allowed, that would be helpful, okay?
I will check that out for you.
Thank you.
And
We
it's
will
also
need-
at the same time for servicing
Yeah.
for yourself. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you got a pile there, trying to get everything, and get it back into it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, Marty, can you hold on a second, please? Yes.
In reference to, the question about the back property line, the applicant has a survey from Scott McDonald, thank you, who, has indicated that the that the extent of the clearing and the grading there is within the rear setback, and that has got to be moved. Now, the applicant's surveyor has shown that that pad will be moved outside of the setback line, but that will have to be revegetated revegetated in there, or, it has to be, the gravel either has to, have soil put on it and seeded, or else it's gotta be removed, it's gotta be taken out of that area. And it's gotta be delineated in the plan, so what Scott needs to do is show, you know, that, he's already shown the extent of it, and then show what part's gonna be taken out of that
Are you
area.
talking where the stump pile is, like where I had that burn pile?
I know, it was on the plan that he first gave.
I think it's over by the Salter.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay.
I don't think it's on the
Yes, yes,
side.
he had it on the back and then he moved it to the side.
Well,
Okay.
so that needs to be shown.
So so in essence, where that tree line is, I've got kind of a mixture of gravel and just natural soils for maybe like 15 feet inside of the tree line. You're saying that needs to be like a grass?
I'm not sure
area?
exactly where it is on the tree line. That's where Scott's map is really, really important, because, you know, I go, because the map that I had didn't have a tree line on it, so I didn't really tell
Okay.
where things were on the ground out there.
Yeah.
What he would wanna do is probably show you where it is on the ground.
Where the exact setback line is.
With the exact setback.
Okay, and then anything inside of that setback
Should
line
be
and
removed
property,
or revegetated.
even if it's just natural dirt like it is now? I
Well,
mean, there's some stone, but I mean, the majority of that is like really just,
well, that's,
natural.
here's the issue, it's up to the board on what goes in there, but they do say this, that, and this is their decision on this, but, all parking and storage areas shall be visually blocked from both the street, which it is, and the abutting properties by a solid fence, earth barrier, or vegetative planting at the time of the installation, that shall not be less than 5 feet in height. I think it's good. I think you probably put grass in there. It's up to the board whether or not there was adequate buffering there at this time.
From my perspective at this time, it's abutting properties. What abutting properties? It's,
Well,
his house is there.
There's a house way over here.
Right.
You can't even see that.
Yeah, because his house is over here, and his brother's house is even further down, or brother-in-law.
yeah.
His brother-in-law is even further down, you can't see that house. And the only other thing that you can see is about 1/8 of an inch worth of, Ben's property. So I'm not sure that that this would apply.
It's up to the board, because, you know, the issue is it's from the abutting property, it's not necessarily from the abutting house, we're so used to house location. It's up to the board, do you want, is it already, if he just reestablishes that as grass? Do you want vegetation in there, do you want any kind of these buffers they're talking about? That's what the board needs to give the applicant direction.
Well, what would be, what if the abutting property owner to the northwest subdivided their lot and decided to sell this piece here as a residential lot with, where a house could be substantially closer than where it is right now, it would be unfortunate if.
Are you asking me?
No, if you would.
In my opinion, well, first off, the house that's over here belongs to Mr. Trotter.
The house is over here?
Yes. Oh, no, the house that's,
Right.
his house is over here, sorry,
His house is
that's his
here.
house is over here. This house over here is Ben Medor's property, way back through.
Yeah.
If Ben chooses to subdivide and somebody buys a piece of property and they can see the contract, the yard, that's their problem.
Why is that their problem?
Because I'm not gonna second guess as to what's gonna happen at some point in the future. At this point, he meets the standard of the ordinance in that he is buffered from Ben's house. If Ben chooses to do something in the future that makes it so that there are lots that see his house,
I'm
that should
sorry,
not be the applicant's problem.
is the ordinance requirement to nearest residence or the property line?
The property line, the abutting,
Okay,
It says the abutting
The
residential
abutting-
property.
yeah.
It's the
Okay.
property, so.
all right.
But does that mean standing right on the border is the abutting property. That-
I'm just thinking of Bentley's campground, honestly, partly.
Yeah, and pave tech as well, they've had issues.
Yeah, I just, it's up to you what you wanna do.
It's up to who?
Well,
I don't know, if we need-
depending on what the board
it's up to what
says,
we
but
want to
my take is, it would, I personally don't wanna require you to do any kind of screening, but if you were to plant some things that would grow up, that would hide the gravel pit from the property line.
Just the pile of gravel?
Yeah.
If the
Can I ask a question, Mr.
Of course you
Chairman?
can.
You said you don't really even need it to go that far back, your trucks will all fit
Yeah.
closer.
Oh, yeah.
Would it be any negative impact if you did have trees? I don't even know if you have to plant them or just let it grow and let it fill in.
Let it fill in where it is,
Yeah.
there's enough space.
Just have like a no-cut zone and just leave it. But I think the fine line is, there is, like you said, Chip, they could subdivide it and that abutting property could almost have a loss of use of their property.
You know, it could, and evolve into a situation like there is down on Senate Road.
Right, and that's what I'm afraid, so it will become this board's headache, might be 20 years from now or 5 years from now, but just to,
Just that 50-foot,
Because-
that 50-foot setback.
yeah,
between the
just
property
leave it
line.
alone.
It's actually a 35 foot.
35 feet.
Yeah.
35 foot, if that could be included as a,
I don't wanna make you
Do-
go through an
do
extra
not- do
expense
not
for
disturb. Yeah.
the rabbits right now,
Right.
but to just say, I think it's best for your own sake
Yeah, I
down the
like
road.
that anyway.
Because someone else
Right.
might come back and then, we've had like all kinds of legal issues that,
okay,
Yeah.
gentlemen,
so, let me make a proposal if I
Okay.
could.
yeah, thank you.
A motion, that you, will pull all of your use out of that setback zone, 35 feet, and just leave it as undisturbed and uncut. And I'd say don't even bother planting new trees unless you want to.
Yeah.
But, I think that's it, just,
Natural.
yeah, just leave it
Okay,
natural
do I
and fill
do I
it.
have a second?
Second.
Can I ask a
Okay.
question?
Maybe
Now-
the chairman's got something to say.
Well, I have a motion and a second, further discussion, Mr. Planner.
Yeah, I think we need to get that area stabilized. I think it needs some soil and, also
Okay.
loam and seed in that area.
Okay,
Very good.
all right, I'll add that to my motion. You second it?
I second it.
We'll get 2 seconds.
You got a tie for a second. Okay, do we have any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Other than the fact that I disagree with it,
You can vote against it.
I disagree with it. I
Okay.
don't think we should put any restrictions on the applicant. It's not called for in the ordinance.
I think it is.
I don't think it is.
It says shall.
Yeah, from the abutting property.
Yeah, but
not
guess
from the
what?
building.
We can't see in the crystal ball.
And I think it's a painless way of dealing with it.
And
Let chips.
I think if he wants to do it, that's fine. I don't think we should make it a
force,
condition.
I don't think we should force it. But the fact is, he's far enough back.
But the ordinance says that it shall be
Visually
screened
blocked.
from the property, abutting property, not the building. I think that's just to prevent future issues.
I agree. I agree as well.
Then, if, I hate to throw a wrench in, but if John McKinderin decides he wants to do something on his property, he's gonna have to fence his property because it abuts up against somebody else. The boy's 100 acres back into the woods. That's what you're saying in this instance, and I disagree with it completely.
And
I
that's-
don't think he should be told to do that. It's not, you can't see this from any of the other houses.
But think about some of the most difficult issues we've had to deal with. It's been about that screening, that the neighbor, and some of them were built maybe after the business was there. And then it does become an issue later on. So this is just a way of,
It's
To
not
give
really
you an idea
requiring
of how absurd
anything,
things
it's
can
just,
be.
No, just-
it's,
We're
Just leave it
requiring
alone.
him
But-
to leave a section that is 35 feet wide, and he's not gonna be allowed to do anything in it.
The ordinance says you can't.
doesn't
It's a
affirmatively
setback.
require anything, though.
this is a,
It's a
That's right,
stabilization.
But we're trying to affirmatively require he do something, and I disagree with the idea.
How about
So
stabilize the
that's-
soil, so we don't have a lake?
We stabilize the soil is one thing.
That's lemon
how
seeding.
about, you asked what
That's not
about
what
wood
they're
chips,
talking
would that stabilize it enough?
Lemon seeding is what he wants, because he won't have to deal with it.
I think he should
Should
be
we-
allowed to do what he wants, and
Well, if that's the point, then, as far as I understand Anthony, he's warm to this idea, because he wants it left natural anyway.
Yeah.
So I think we're agonizing over something we don't need to.
I agree, yes,
Yeah.
all right. May I ask for a vote?
sure, you're the chairman.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion that Tom has made about leaving the 35 feet undisturbed and loaming and seeding the part that's been disturbed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No,
Okay, I got one no, how many ayes did I get?
4.
Fine.
Okay,
Five.
5,
Okay,
okay.
we're not making it mandatory, he can do what he wants with it.
You just made it mandatory. You
No.
voted to make it
Well,
that
I
way.
didn't vote, that's why.
I was gonna say,
I'm voting
you
no, I
have
don't
one
want it
that didn't say
mandatory.
a word over here.
No, he didn't say
No,
that.
I voted no.
Okay.
Okay. The motion still
Wait,
carries.
what's-
Still carries.
Yeah.
What is it now, Chairman, we're making it, he can't,
Mandatory.
It's
You're setting
to
a precedent.
remain undisturbed and loam and seed the part that's been disturbed.
I don't get it.
Now,
No.
if there was somebody with a house back there that, and they could see it immediately, I'd agree with you.
Votes are
Okay,
gonna take
time
and
time
it's-
out. Corinne, what do you have for a motion, please?
To require applicant to pull usage out of the 35-foot setback into seed and loam to stabilize the soil.
Just the disturbed areas
Yeah.
inside the gravel,
We're within 35 feet of
in the gravel area, just in my gravel
Yeah.
backyard.
Tom, did your motion include establishing a no-cut buffer there or not?
I just called it undisturbed, and it's,
So,
just,
undisturbed, okay.
yeah,
So that was part of your
You won't be-
motion.
yeah.
Okay, so I apologize, gentlemen, I think we were voting on,
Yeah.
different people were voting on different ideas.
Let's restate.
Okay, so, the motion, intention was to.
Have Green read it.
I suggest that we withdraw the other,
Okay, yeah.
Withdraw our start over.
If it was unclear, I would
Yes,
have that
we
motion.
need to, the previous
Null and
vote
void it.
is invalid. Okay, Corinne, what do you have, please?
Robert's rule says that the person, one of the people who voted for the motion can ask for reconsideration of that motion.
Okay,
I'll ask for reconsideration.
Second.
Can I have
We
a
need a
second?
I'll second that.
All right.
Okay, all those in favor of reconsideration signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries.
So,
If I could help a little bit here?
yeah,
The issue here is that the parking lot has extended into the setback, the rear setback, which is not permitted for a contractor's yard too. All gravel and parking areas have to be outside of that.
right.
And so it's intruded, so Anthony has already shown that he's gonna pull it back to the setback of 35 feet, and he's indicated he will. And I think what the.
That's one of the issues, Dan.
That's one of the first issues, that he's gotta pull it out of there, because he can't park there. And so, he's gotta pull it back to the setback line of 35 feet. And then, the issue, and he's gotta stabilize it, because it's disturbed right now, and that's what we talked about, the loam and seeding. And so that's one thing, and the second thing was the issue of whether he has to plant it, put in a fence, put in an earth berm, or plant it with blocking vegetation, so that you can't visually see through to the adjoining
park.
Well, if there was the option, I thought Mr. McGinn proposed, was that rather than requiring him to proactively do something
Right.
to create a visual buffer now, that we would include, that the permit, conditional use permit would include a requirement to leave that 35-foot area undisturbed, so that a visual buffer will grow up over time.
Correct.
Am I, Tom, was that your
Sure, yeah.
intent?
Yeah, 5 or 8 years, it'll be filled in. So that was my intention, just to remove the parking area from the 35-foot setback and stabilize it. And I think that would be it. If you wanna plant something, you can, but I'm not.
Let me ask the applicant, do you have any problem with that being a requirement in the permit?
No, I mean, I have no problem, planting seed, grass seed loaming and grass seeding.
And
And
then
if I had to plant trees and all that.
No, we're not talking about that, but, and then leaving that 35-foot
There's no
buffer.
problem there. Well, I like the privacy.
Okay,
Rich?
So
Is
that,
Tom, you.
that was my
along that?
motion.
That was your motion,
Yeah.
okay.
We put it all together.
So it's to remove the parking area out of the 35-foot setback, and then stabilize what was disturbed with
Just
loam and seed.
And did you want to
And
include
and
the?
then to leave that undisturbed, from then on.
Okay.
From there on.
Tom, question to ask you.
Yeah.
How about just turn around and say, maintain a minimum of a 35-foot setback? That will turn around, because that way it will be,
I'm just gonna leave it at 35 feet.
Marty,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
35 feet is in the land use ordinance.
I realize that, I said,
I'm trying to keep it simple.
it is simple.
Through the chair?
I'm sorry, one moment, please. Who had seconded Tom's motion originally?
I did.
Okay. Does your second stand?
As restated?
Yes.
It does.
Okay. Mr. Planner?
Yeah, just to remind the board, this is a sketch plan and the applicant has yet to submit a full application. Okay? So just to remind the board that what we're doing is giving him direction as to what he needs to do to submit it, so we're not taking a formal action on this application.
So we don't even need really to discuss this.
Well, you need
Well,
to
this
give him accurate direction.
Yeah.
This
So
will
when
be
he's,
required.
when Anthony submits his plan, if he were to submit a plan showing the setback and an affirmative indication on that,
Yeah.
that he,
Well, let's see.
loam and seed and, existing vegetation to remain undisturbed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that
Just add a note.
violates the ordinance.
Is that right?
I think it violates the ordinance. The
How?
ordinance, all parking and storage areas shall be visually blocked from both the street and abutting properties by a solid fence, earth barrier, and/or vegetative plantings that at the time of installation shall not be less than 8 feet in height.
Okay, so do
So
you,
if you're gonna,
You wanna require him to
What page-
plant?
What page are you on?
I'm on page
Yeah.
155.
Yep.
9(4)(b)(1), I think.
Yeah, there's only 6.
It says this, it has to be 8 feet in height. I disagree with the entire concept because I don't think he needs to do anything. The closest house to him is 1,000 feet away.
Why'd you bring up that? Yeah. I thought this would have been a good compromise.
No, if you guys are saying that you wanna stick with the standard and say that because there's a piece of property that he abuts against, you have to create that barrier. I think that barrier already exists, and if you're gonna do anything, he's gotta make it 8 feet high.
So
I
you
think
can
it-
require,
I think that'd be a live wire if the applicant had an issue with it, but it doesn't. And it seems what we're trying to do and what he would like to do are consonant, so.
I think he can do whatever he wants. I don't think we should be telling him what it is that he has to do, because he can read the ordinance and he can say, he's in compliance. I'm opposed to the idea of telling him that he has to do it, the ordinance is there.
And I
This is a
basically
budget-
am telling the applicant, what you've cleared already is, you cannot use because it's within the setback. And that
That's right,
setback's gotta be
he can't
returned to
use
natural
it,
state.
I agree with you, he cannot use it,
Gentlemen,
but the whole clearing of the idea.
Time out, can we need to move forward. Rich, I understand your position.
Okay.
I understand that what it sounds to me as if the applicant actually needs to ask for a waiver of you might wanna write this down. 9.3.14.
No, it's 9.4 B1, contract for yard 2. 9.3 is yard 1.
No, it isn't, it's contract for yards. There's 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay, I see
4.
what, yeah, this thing was way too far down.
Okay, so what you need to discuss with Mr. Shepherd is 9.3.14 contractor yards. Section 4 is contractor yard 2. 4B is performance standards, and 1 under that requires that it be visually blocked from the street and abutting properties. I think what Tom, at least what Tom and I believe Jens, I don't wanna put words in anybody else's mouth. What I was trying to accomplish was effectively tell you that it would be, we would be okay with a waiver of the immediate 8-foot visual barrier requirement, but we would want a commitment to leave the vegetation undisturbed.
Yeah, I understand.
Is that Jens and Tom, is that consistent with what you were thinking?
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we
Rich?
able to waive some of these requirements?
No. So you can't waive standards. You can
Yeah,
waive
so-
submission requirements, but you can't waive standards of the zoning
And this
ordinance.
is-
Unless it gives you permission to waive standards.
This is just, to me, it's a great compromise. It's required, but saying, the requirement will be met given time, as long as it's left.
Well, let me ask this, was there vegetation there that has been removed?
Not really. A lot of that gravel, that's, a lot of it's just, like, some of it's from plowing. If you pull up a couple rocks, you'll see sand and clay right underneath, and that's why it's all muddy. So a lot of that is just the fact of plowing and being out there and using.
Winter use?
Using it, what's that?
Winter use?
Yeah.
I think we've talked ourselves into a
Or-
blind canyon here.
Well, no, if there's a performance standard, the town planner is telling us that we have no ability to waive or interpret a performance standard?
If existing vegetation meets the goal that, the existing vegetation on the site meets the goal, then that's fine. It's only when the existing vegetation doesn't meet the standard that you have to augment the need. If you have a forest there, and you don't have to put another vegetation there if the forest blocks views to the adjacent property. The only point I was trying to make was that Anthony's got a pole.
Well, I guess it needs to be determined no matter what, exactly where the line is,
That's
and
right.
exactly where the 35 feet is.
Exactly how many trees are existing. That's what you wanna do. You wanna go out there and take that look, and it's presented to this board.
So I need some help from the rest of you that were on the board when we passed this ordinance, the yard 2 ordinance. maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but I thought our biggest concern was that the residents would be able to see it, not somebody standing on the property line. We wanted to buffer this from the adjacent residences and or other businesses, not from the adjacent property.
Well, that's not what this says.
I know it, I know it doesn't, but I think that was our intent. I could be wrong.
Well, I don't think it matters right now for purposes of this application, unfortunately.
It doesn't, but I think we need to change it going forward.
Okay, duly noted. Mr. Redway, please add that to our list.
Yep.
Yeah, just change it to residences and not property.
Mm.
Have the
I
motion still on
I
the table.
disagree with it.
Yeah.
We don't know what Anthony's got out there. I think Anthony should come back. Anthony, take a look at what you got for
Yeah.
vegetation.
Why don't you take a look at it and talk to your, whoever's helping you out with the application, and whether or not you have, and also talk with the planner about
And change it on the sketch plan.
if you leave the existing vegetation in place, will it satisfy this thing, whatever it is, for contractor yard 2B on page 155? Okay? And I didn't write this, and I apologize, it's more complicated than it should be.
No, I'm following you.
Okay,
Mr.
I don't,
Chairman?
I would, yes, sir.
Are we considering this evening any of these other items?
I think we need to give Mr. Chartier guidance on the other items.
Okay, that's good, that's right.
And that,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
do we turn around and what we were under discussion, do we withdraw all that so it's not needed until he comes back with a different site plan? Because otherwise, what we're beating.
I don't think we have any choice, Mr. Kane. But it's up to Mr. McGinn to withdraw his motion.
I'm not gonna withdraw my motion, because
Okay.
even if I did, it doesn't harm the applicant. Whether you still, I think in 2 weeks, I'd probably say, yeah, you need to be 35 feet out of there, and how do we know? And you will find out where that 35 is somehow, and it's probably not build, not use it, and so I think it's still applies.
Procedurally, if Tom's motion stays, and it's been seconded,
Yeah.
Then we have to vote on it.
And we can't vote on granting a waiver for performance
This isn't-
standard.
This
Right.
isn't a motion to waive anything. This is just motion requiring, mitigating the issue. Or just find a way to allow it to be met, that requirement. So that, I'm not withdrawing, so the motion's still on the table. I don't know if we've ever done that before.
Okay, all those in favor of Mr. McGinn's motion signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
I know.
Sorry.
3-3.
Motion fails.
Motion
Okay,
fails.
the motion fails.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Marty,
we
you
should come
and-
up with a solution to this.
Okay, I'm sorry, let's move along, please, gentlemen.
I have a question related to this section of the ordinance. You have a fuel container
Yes.
out there. According to item 6, you have to have a fuel containment system surrounding any above-ground fuel storage tanks, and oil and water separators have to be installed to prevent runoff.
Isn't that, I could be, obviously be wrong, isn't that, once it's 500 gallons or more, is regardless for the town of Arundel?
I'm just looking at what the
Gallons is-
ordinance says, so you could very well be right, the ordinance simply says a fuel containment.
I'm fairly certain that it's 500 gallons or more.
Let's put it this way,
Doesn't say that.
it doesn't say that, but generally a diking system or anything else would be required under that guidelines, okay?
Yep.
Under what
But-
guideline? The 500 gallon,
Yes,
okay.
or more, okay? But in the case of fuel system, they can still have their 100-gallon tanks in the back of their pickup trucks and fueling, and they don't need a containment. So, I mean,
We make it at 200 gallons.
What size
Excuse
is,
me?
what do you have there?
500
I think it's $4.99.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at where we don't have it is 200 gallons. Total quantity of fuel stored on the site and the vehicle shall not exceed 200 gallons. That's for a
That's for a
contract.
vehicle?
That's,
That's
for
a contractor yard one.
That's contractor yard one. It doesn't mention any specification on the amount of fuel. It just says fuel containment system shall be installed surrounding above-ground fuel storage tanks and oil water separators shall be installed to prevent runoff from such containment structures in on-site vehicle and equipment fueling state locations. Well, you wouldn't need an oil water separator because you've got a roof over it, first of all. If you did have a containment.
What would a fuel containment system consist of for a 501 gallon tank?
the dike, there's waterproof, so it can't
Yeah,
leak.
just like we did with,
Branchbrook.
Branchbrook.
Okay,
It was
except-
20,000 gallons.
Except his is under roof.
$4.99, yeah.
No, his is under roof, which means you don't have rain and snow going into it.
You still do.
Again,
It's an
I
open-
think,
it's
I
an
think you
open
need to
container.
consult, I think he needs to consult with his attorney, engineer, or whatever professionals are helping you with this, and the town planner, and figure out what you need to do with.
If I need to do anything with that.
Right.
Right, okay, and that's for contractor yard 2, B as in boy, 6, fuel containment system, on page 156. Okay, Rich, do you have any more hand grenades you wanna throw in my lap before we start talking about the waivers?
No,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Jesus. Excuse me. Okay, the applicant has requested a waiver of a topographic survey.
I'll make a motion, we grant that waiver, it's about as flat as you can.
And I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay, do we have any further discussion of the
Are we
waiver
allowed to
of a
waive it?
topographic survey requirement?
Are we allowed to waive it?
Yes, it's a submission requirement, we can waive
Sorry,
it.
you can waive it.
Who seconded?
I did.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, thank you. Soil survey,
I'll move we grant that as well.
I'll second that one as well.
okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of waiving the requirement for a soil survey signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
I'm gonna stay on a roll here, but,
Uh,
well,
Hold on a minute.
Gotta read it first.
Number 3, traffic impact study. Now,
okay, so move we,
Here's that
we,
reminder.
we require him to do the whole Route 111 corridor study.
I've been down there.
Sorry,
After me trying to take a left-hand turn to get there. No,
We
that,
wanna stop.
you're lucky everybody got out really easy.
yeah, we grant, a waiver of the traffic
I'll second that
impact
one.
study.
okay, you said you had 4 or 5 employees that parked on the site,
Yes,
correct?
yeah.
And how many trucks would be leaving the site every morning and coming back in the evening?
Typically 4 or 5 trucks.
What kind of trucks are we talking about?
Dump trucks and small tool trucks, my pickup.
Okay,
So typically it'd be 3 to 4 dump trucks and usually a small,
Okay.
long-time style truck.
my take is that this traffic impact study is, we have a high volume of traffic at peak hours. You're probably mobilizing earlier than
Oh, yes.
any, before 111 gets really busy, am I correct?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay. All right, any further discussion of this? I'm glad you all are so excited about this. All those in favor of Mr. McGinn's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, great. Okay, we're on a roll now. Number 4, groundwater study. Are we going to waive groundwater
I'll
study?
move we grant that
I'll second it.
waiver as well.
I have one suggestion, gentlemen,
Yeah.
and that is, I think that our planner was gonna look into the issue of leachate. And it seems to me that there's a relationship there. We might wanna just defer that until we get better information, pass that one over for now.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, I'll withdraw it, just, it'd be good to get that information first.
Thank you, Jens.
What,
Appreciate
out
that.
of curiosity, so regardless if I had, well, if I did not have a reclaim pile there, would this be a different conversation?
I would think
To me, it would
Yeah.
be.
So if that reclaim pile was turned into a gravel pile for the next board planning, would this just eliminate a lot of this? Because the only reason I put that on there was the recommendation from my attorney for,
Use
go for what you think you're gonna use it for, and don't just skimp on it. And the reality of me having stuff there is very slim. I don't like my yard looking like a mess.
Here's what I would suggest. You may get an answer from Tad that says, no problem. And so if you, it seems to me it would be sensible for you just to defer,
with it, yeah.
get an answer to that question, because then you're not closing down an option.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
might want to take advantage.
Find out what he says to Tad. I just,
You gonna do the homework, Tad, on that?
Yes, sir. You take care of the buffer, I'll take care of the,
All right.
okay, so we're,
Okay,
that motion has been withdrawn, so that's deferred. Okay, market study, what, I'm ignorant, what kind of market study are we supposed to require applicants to?
market study is an optional study that's done by the planning board, and they haven't done it yet. It's in the situation, especially in an adaptive reuse situation, or an issue where there's a question about timing on a project, whether we actually got a market study from Joe, if you remember.
Okay.
Those situations, because we had concerns whether or not he would be able to do the phases as he said he was able to.
Okay.
He gave us a market study.
My personal take is that Mr. Trottier is a businessman and he knows whether he's got enough business to support this or not. But I'm not able to make a motion.
I would make the motion to waive the market study.
Second.
Nope, Marty got that one.
Okay, do we have any further discussion of waiving the requirement for a market study? Crickets. All those in favor, signify by
Yay.
saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, 6, I have a similar question about fiscal impact. Fiscal impact on what or
It's gonna be a
whom?
again, it's one of those things that's optional on the conditional use sheet.
Make the
It's
motion
something
to
that's
waive.
done in situations where.
Second.
Thank you.
Who, person?
Rich,
Okay,
Rich first, Marty second.
thank you.
Okay, any further discussion of the fiscal impact study? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye to waive it.
Yay.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
I agree with you on those last, if the business owner wants to put it up, let him put it up. If it fails, shame on him.
Yeah, that's what the invisible hand is supposed to take care
It's
of.
already put up anyway, so he's already,
The fiscal impact, actually, when you'd be dealing with large projects, especially residential projects, especially if they involve a lot of people, the impact it would have on.
Small school-aged children would cause me to pay even more
That's
taxes.
where you do the
Not
fiscal
that
impact.
Tuesday was painful. Okay.
Were those the only waivers?
I believe so.
Yeah, there was, what, 7 of them?
Those were the waivers that
I
Mr.
think there was an
Shepherd
important waiver
requested.
that was not discussed in that. The
What?
applicant has not asked for a waiver on stormwater plan. Or for contours.
Yes, we waived,
We
we
did
just
do
waived the
contours.
purple.
I'm sorry, stormwater.
Stormwater.
Stormwater plan. It's not.
that,
You did, that was the second one, we waived it.
Stormwater?
No, that was
No, no.
soil survey.
Soil survey.
That was the second one.
Stormwater, not soil.
We had a groundwater, but
That's
we're
the
waiting for
stormwater.
an answer on it. You're right, we didn't have a stormwater.
That's right.
No, there was not.
Well,
So something that,
We
that
need to
we
waive
could
it.
look at.
Or ask.
okay, do we have any more guidance for Mr. Trottier, whose brains are probably dribbling out of his ears by now?
I guess I have one question. The process moving forward is get to figure out what we're doing here, communicate with you, and then the next
Submit your revised,
Final.
your revised site plan, yeah,
Yeah.
your final. I mean, because what you had right now is just a,
right, here's what you gotta do.
yeah, this is what we wanna do, what do you think? What are your concerns? And now you've heard from the board what the concerns are, now you go back and address those concerns in your site plan, and submit that formal application with that big checklist we talked about. Okay?
Also, sir,
And you also pay us money.
also, sir,
For tonight.
have it,
After that, is that next meeting either
As
yea
soon as
or
you
nay?
get that into, you get that to me in 14 days, okay? 14 days after you give that to me, we'll put you on the agenda.
And it's yea or nay at that next?
What we,
We have to do a public hearing.
the first step that we do is to decide whether or not the
Complete.
application is complete, or if there's anything that we want to require. For example, if you come back and your application requests a waiver of the requirement for a stormwater management study, and the board determines that we need to see, I'm not saying we're going to, but just a what if, that we needed to see a stormwater management study, then we would not deem the application complete. If we deem the application complete, then we vote on
no,
on
we set a
the
public hearing.
completion. Hold on, gentlemen, I'm sorry. We vote on whether it's complete or not, then if it's, once it's complete, we can schedule a public hearing for the next planning board meeting. And then we have a public hearing, so your neighbors can come and, you know, make any comments or whatever. And then, at that same meeting, after the public hearing, we would vote on approval of the conditional use permit. Mr. Planner, did I get that right at last?
You did, Mr. Chairman.
So it's a month or two out at this point for everything.
4 to
to go
6
through.
weeks, yeah.
It's how fast you can get the submissions into us. That's really the
None of these
deciding.
none of these decisions on a small topic like this are made in-house right here with you folks? I'm just out of curiosity.
No, we have the process that we have to follow.
Yeah, I was just curious, I was just curious.
Thank you,
Also,
sir. Appreciate your
also,
time.
through the chair,
Yes.
okay, when he has something, we also have plans, everything else, it will need a signature block.
Yeah, all those, yeah.
I mean, I've just,
That's with the final, right?
A drawing of the building would be included also, correct?
How to,
Well, yeah, at least
of my-
at least the footprint and
Of the garage.
some description of the garage.
Even though it's already built?
I mean, in my mind, that is a residential garage for my junk, and my kids' junk, and my family's junk, and it's not a commercial garage that's used as.
Okay, I misunderstood.
So,
It has very large doors on
Right.
both
Yep.
ends that look like you could drive a truck into it, do something to the
Right.
truck and drive it out the other end.
I can get prepared plans for you, or.
I mean,
It's just
it-
something on the
yeah.
footprint on the map.
And if it's not part of the business, then state that's not part of the business, but you do have the fuel
Yeah,
tank
you're right,
next to it, okay? I mean, I saw the sleds, look
Right.
really good.
There's a trampoline inside for my kids, that's what they go to in the morning, that's their playground.
That's pretty cool. Okay,
Alright.
gentlemen, do we have any more guidance for the applicant? Okay.
Thank you.
All set. Take care, Chris. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, I can't tell you all how excited I am about this.
Mr. Chairman, there are a couple of items I think we could clean up right away without
Okay.
beating up everything else.
Okay.
Specifically, there are two of them. Amendments to section 513.21 private way construction standards. The suggestion is that we bring them into compliance with the Arundel Street Design and Construction Ordinance, and I think we could clear that up right away with a simple vote. And I think the same thing would happen with section 10.633, the plenary site.
I applaud your suggestion, however, the time to change the agenda was at 7:05.
But I don't know if that conflicts with the agenda, it still is,
It's part of the land use revision.
right.
Okay, all right, so what you're saying is you wanna address item 6, and what's the other one?
6 and 5, 5 and 6.
Okay,
Because I think we could knock them out and make them go relatively quickly.
well, let's take it in reverse order. Let's start with item 6. Could I get a motion on that, please?
Read it, please.
Was that a motion, Rich?
I'm gonna
Okay, I'll
make a
second
motion.
that motion then.
We bring the private way construction standards into compliance with the Arundel Street Design and Construction Ordinance, section 513.21 private way construction.
Yeah, be good to get something completed.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah. The private ways that are already existing,
Doesn't affect these.
or for any, now are you talking for business or are you talking for residential?
We're talking private ways.
That's what I'm asking you. I said, is it for business or is it residential?
Well, it says dwelling lots, or dwelling units.
But you also have private ways in business. That's my question.
This,
I
don't think the street design.
I don't even know what a crown cross slope is.
We can
It's
discuss that while we're, after this motion is passed, if it passes.
Well,
No,
I don't
No,
think,
no, the time to discuss it.
It's
Can
not.
somebody please tell me what a crown cross slope is?
If you look at a cross-section of a road,
Yes.
it's that center
it's
capital.
the center, basically, it's what makes it drain off to the sides. So if you have a road, and this is exaggerated, okay? Here's your road, this is called the crown, right here, this is the high
Center
center
I
line.
know what a crown is.
Right in the
yes.
center line of the, right in the center line.
Okay.
And so it's these gradients shedding runoff from both sides. You can do a 1/4 inch per foot or 3/4 inch per foot. 1/4 inch per foot is the usual.
Quarter inch per foot is what is in the town roads for specifications?
It is, a 1/4 inch is for paved surfaces, 3/4 inch in our town standards is for gravel surfaces. The theory being the gravel surfaces have a greater friction coefficient because of material in it, because of the rough material in it. I'm not sure that's true, but that's what it boils down to. That's what the ordinance says. This is the street ordinance says. So it makes, we have always said it's 3/4 period, and the reason why we did that was because we usually deal with gravel surfaces on private ways. Most of our private ways are gravel surfaces, there's not a lot that are paved. But we shouldn't have that standard in there and penalize a paved private way. And we should be in conformance with
Okay.
the street
This
construction.
table is on page 54 of the land use ordinance. And
In the street
where
construction
in the,
ordinance.
where in the table? Okay, here we go.
Crown. It just says
Crown.
Yeah, it says crown in the middle.
So are we discussing the standard right now, or are we discussing the motions?
we're discussing the motion, because there's a motion on the table to change, just a blanket change from 3/4 of an inch per foot to 1/4 inch per
That's not,
foot.
the motion had nothing to do with that dimension.
It was simply to bring the land use ordinance, private way construction standards into compliance with the Arundel street design.
Correct.
And we never voted on that. We have to turn on,
Okay, in order to do what you're suggesting, Rich, Crown would need to have 2 rows, one for gravel, one for
It
paved.
has nothing to do with what Rich moved.
What the hell are you talking about?
He's just saying, let's work on that one first. And it sounds like you're.
No, my motion was that we bring them into compliance, which means that we are going to adopt the Arundel land use standards into
No, the
state-
Arundel Road ordinance.
the Arundel street design.
Okay, maybe I got it wrong. I thought you were saying we should tackle that one first.
Oh, yeah, we said.
That's what we're doing, Tom, that's exactly what we're doing.
If we adopt the
Okay.
street ordinance, then
I'm
we
sorry.
don't have to go through all the crap.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it would be
May I
about-
suggest that, may I suggest that perhaps Rich's motion would be to adopt the changes that are specified on the sheet that has been provided, as presented by the town planner?
Yes, that's essentially. Yeah, because that's gonna bring us into compliance with the
Okay.
street design.
That- Which is the 2 rows I was just talking about.
Yes. Well, I didn't
I
say
think we're all on the
wasn't.
same page.
Yep.
So with that, is there a motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Where is Berube Way? Oh,
Ruby Way is off of Trout Brook Road. It was done by staff this summer.
And this would address the issue of whether it was paid for gravel.
Correct.
Okay,
and
Rich, would you please state your motion, restate your motion?
Okay. My motion was to accept the planner's recommendation to amend section 513.21, the private way construction standards, to conform to the standards of the Arundel street design and construction ordinance as reflected in the table that the town planner has provided us with.
Okay, do I have a second for
I'll
that
second
motion?
We did.
You did, all right.
Okay, I have a second. Is there any further discussion?
yes. I asked a question. Question was, is it for residential or is it for commercial?
All of the above.
Private ways private ways are really geared mostly for residential. We have to, we usually would find ourselves in a situation where we need to, we haven't had a lot of commercial. We've had one commercial private way so far.
Which one did you call it? Mine?
Branch Brook.
Mine.
Well, yours, yeah, but I didn't do yours.
No, I'm just saying,
Yours is one, yeah. Yours is one, Branch Brook is another. And something, frankly speaking, another thing to put on the list is that we have to come up with a standard for commercial driveways. Because this problem comes up again and again, which is a private way, which is a commercial private way. So, but that's something for a future day.
But for-
right now, the way
for
this is set
now-
up, it's
for now,
residential.
It covers everything.
It covers everything, and this would bring our ordinance into conformity with the Arundel Street Design and Construction Ordinance.
Correct.
If anything,
Okay.
how many of our streets,
Do we need to,
because it's under discussion, Chip. That's
I
all.
know, I understand that.
Question is, how many of our streets actually fall under the guidelines in town?
That's too big of a topic to discuss.
It-
It's
it-
huge.
It won't make any difference because we're talking, this is, any change that gets made at town meeting affects future, not what's in existence.
Yeah, but so if they repave a road,
No,
yeah,
No,
that's
because
true.
the private way's already in existence, it won't apply.
What is the town hall gonna be? Private way?
Be a driveway.
we still have to comply with these
because it's gonna be a new one.
The other thing, Marty, is that we're relaxing the requirement from the existing land use ordinance.
So it actually uses up.
Yeah, it is,
So you're relaxing it?
Yes?
Yeah,
Don't wanna fight that. Right now, they're all required to be
three-quarter inch, which is a
Now it's-
6% gradient,
Now
which
it's
is pretty
saying,
steep. It's steep, I mean,
if it's
especially.
paved, you only have to do a quarter inch.
Right.
Which is
That's
a
a 2%.
That's a good thing. And 2% gradient's much better.
And making it consistent with the street ordinance makes sense to me.
Yes.
Yeah, please have a vote on this. Is that acceptable?
Yeah,
Okay.
all of those.
All those in favor of Rich's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
No.
That's fine, you can vote no.
I've done it a lot tonight, Marty.
You can vote no, and it doesn't matter. It does
I don't
matter.
think he was convinced that it's relaxing things, I think that,
I understand, but let's move on. All right, proposed, let's just go in reverse numerical order. Proposed amendments, sections 9.29 and 10.64 to demonstrate technical and financial capacity to complete a project under conditional use or site plan review. So let's start with 9.49.
You approved this last time, this was shot down at town meeting in January. You wanted, the chairman asked me to bring this back.
Has anything changed since?
Nothing's changed.
Okay.
So I'd like to make, well, you wanna make a
Well,
motion?
no, wait a minute.
No, this is it right here, Chip. That's what we're gonna be approving.
What number, which one is it?
9229.
I'm trying to find it.
Sorry, I printed the stuff out and it's all jumbled.
Here, I have an extra copy, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you handed it out tonight, didn't you?
yes,
I
it is.
also-
Chip did the same thing I did, I printed 15 copies.
Okay, all right.
No, you know, I'm withdrawing my motion.
Why?
The town meeting voted it down. I hate the idea of incrementalism where we keep coming back again and again and again to get something approved that you want. The town meeting voted it down. I'm gonna agree with the town meeting.
But why was it
Well,
voted down?
who's the principal proponent of this change?
We were, the planning board was, we wanted to change the ordinance.
We
The
wanted-
town meeting, that got shot down.
Okay, and we wanted to change it, why?
We wanted to make sure, we run into situations where we had applicants who did not have adequate financial capacity to finish a project, or did not have the technical capacity to perform the project.
That's a
So
big
the,
issue,
it
technical
seems to me the
capacity.
intention,
I-
the board's intention was right, okay? So what has changed about that?
It just got shut down, that's it.
Well, we got shot down under certain,
I actually I do not agree with the board's intention. When it comes to the technical capacity, I don't think that is should be the role of the planning board to try to determine that applicant A is competent to carry out a particular construction project and applicant B is not. And I think that is beyond our capacity, and I don't think we have any business making that kind of determination. And when it comes to financial capacity to complete a project, that is something I adamantly agree with and think should be required. Because I have seen all kinds of projects where it turned out that there either wasn't financial capacity or there was serious financial stress. Projects get delayed, not completed. If you've ever been in a nursing home that got finished by the construction contractor because the owner went bankrupt 2/3 of the way through construction. That's the most depressing place I've ever been in my life. But I actually, I had not thought about Rich's position, the way he put it. I think he put it very clearly, which is we made a recommendation to town meeting. The town meeting considered it and shot it down. And I was not present at the town meeting because I was unable to be out of state. So I don't know what the reasons were. But my position is that the technical capacity, I think, is none of our damn business, but the financial resources are.
Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I disagree with that. I think those two things is a strong relationship between the two of them. And the reasons to support financial are similar to those that support technical capacity. And I think being one of the two planning board members that was at that town meeting, that was a hostile environment to anything that the planning board
The vote
had
had
in mind,
nothing.
no matter what its merit
Yeah,
was.
my impression is that vote had nothing to do with the substance of what was being proposed. It was simply, the rejection was simply
No,
that it
it
was being proposed.
was a simple no.
Correct, so that's why I asked at the outset, what was our intention, and was it not well-intended and well thought out by the board?
I think it was well intended, that the technical skill and capacity, I do not know how this board can make that assessment in a fair and competent manner in all cases. But I don't know what other people think.
Well, I guess one question I have on that number 9 statement is it the individual that we're assessing, or is it
Company.
his company?
These things, it's the same thing, because what we're talking about, gentlemen, are resources. And those resources can be financial, or they can be, ultimately they will be financial, because if a person doesn't have the technical capacity themselves, then how do you get it? You buy it.
So that's
Well,
what I'm
and-
thinking,
and
if that was the case, they could, that second one, number 10, financial, I think it is most important. If they don't have a technical capacity, then they hire someone to do that.
The process though, Jens, the timeline is if I were undertaking a project that required a conditional use permit, what I would do is I would hire the surveyor and engineer that I needed and the lawyer to put my application together. I would bring my application in, I would get the application approved, and only after I had the application approval would I hire the professionals to construct the private way or stormwater detention pond or whatever it is. And the timing is part of what I object to about the technical skill. The applicant may very well not have selected a contractor at the time that they are making their application. So how do you, I don't have the technical skill to design and build a road. I'll hire an engineer that can design it, but I still can't prove that I have the technical capacity to actually do the construction. I'm gonna hire a contractor.
Using your, if I may, Mr. Chairman, actually, it's more for more technical things, like I'm going to create a vulcanization, multi-tiered vulcanization system here, in which I'm going to be creating all these different products. Have you ever done this kind of project before? Well, no. Who's gonna be running this? Well, I am. But using your case, if you where the technical question would come in your case would be the planning board would ask you, you were saying, I'm gonna build this road. And they said, okay, well, are you gonna be building this road? You said, yes, I am. I'm gonna be building this road. Have you ever built a road before? No, but I'm gonna be building this road. That's a situation where you would say, I'm not sure that this should be the case. Perhaps you should go hire somebody who knows how to build a road. And the person would say, adamantly, no, I'm going to do it.
Okay, okay,
You
what,
can't, you
what,
can't make me,
Yeah, you
Go
can't
hire.
really do that.
yeah.
And you know that we're gonna have some problems, and we say, well,
all
actually.
right, let me throw out another example.
Okay.
What if a company came to town and they said that they wanted to they wanna build a small factory to do printed circuit boards? And they haven't, how in the heck are we supposed to determine whether they have the technical capacity to build printed circuit boards or not? And why is it the planning board's role, if they have the financial resources to build the building, that, and acquire the equipment that they think they need to go in the building, who cares whether they know what they're doing or not? If their business goes bankrupt, it goes bankrupt, but that's up to the market. I don't think it's up to this board
And I don't
to
think,
determine whether they have the technical capacity.
How about a collection of very wealthy 18-year-olds who wanna establish a marijuana cultivation facility?
It's omitted in all the zones.
Well,
but let's
yeah.
keep going, let's
But
keep
go
going
in.
anyway. Yes. You know, Chip,
Well, I mean, let's take a specific example, Sprinkle Pod. Did, I forget which one of the Wentworths that was in here. No, okay, did any of us, you know, did we have any empirical evidence of Noah's technical ability to do what he said he was going to do at Sprinkle Pod? No.
Yes.
Yes,
I
we
think
asked,
did.
yes, we asked him, and if you were to do, this kind of thing, this technical and financial capacity is standard language. First of all, it's in our subdivision ordinance, and something that we should be asking every applicant who's doing a subdivision. That's number one. Number two, it's in every single site location permit. It's required in every single site location. And having done quite a few of those myself in the past, I can tell you what you do is you provide, if you're doing an issue on, you're trying to prove that you have financial capacity, you usually get a letter from the bank that says, I have the financing to do this. And then do the technical stuff, you say, I have hired these people to run this project to do this, and this is my basic. Usually it's one page. That's all it is.
If they have the financial capacity to build whatever it is,
Right.
they're coming in, then why is it this board's role to determine whether or not they have the technical ability to run their business?
I don't think it's so much the business as it would be necessarily the kind of.
That's
kind
not
of
what this
impact.
says. That's
Well,
not
to
what
do the
this
project, it
says.
says the technical capacity to do the project.
Okay,
I can think of one example not too far from here, where they put a subdivision in, and they did it on their own, and we've had to go back there and look at that road construction 5 times. And that's a cost to the town. So if the guy doesn't have any technical
Thompson Road.
expertise, what's that?
Thompson Road.
Let's not get,
We're not gonna get
no,
specific.
let's not go there.
Well, not
And
too far from here.
Roger, I guess, when I talk with the town planner, I feel strongly about a distinction between the technical ability to construct the facility, where, again, the order of events is you hire your design consultants, whoever they are, you get your permit, and then you hire a contractor. And it's.
But if you're not gonna
post
hire a
permit.
contractor, that's the point. I was
all
trying
right,
You're not going to hire a contractor, I'm gonna do this myself.
Okay, two points on this, okay? One, do we not have a check and balance by, say, roads or whatever else not, of having our own consultants come back and check and to make sure if it isn't done right, even though he says he's doing it at his cost, because he has to pay the consultant to make sure it's right along the way. At the cost of what it costs the town, to make sure everything is done right and wrong. Is that not a check and balance?
Yeah, and then I will tell you what will happen in many cases, and I've seen this happen, because I've had to go and clean it up in the past. Somebody says they have a technical capability to do something, let's say I'm gonna blast Scotch Shores in a totally different state, so I can say without fear of being sued. But, 20-foot basically blasting and building a road through 20 feet of ledge down alongside the Housatonic River, for instance, in which the applicant had neither the financial capacity to finish the project, nor had the technical ability to do it, because they had never done this kind of project before, and the bank had to come in. It was a mess for the town, because the town had to spend a lot of money sending out inspectors, plus there was litigation over it, and frankly, the area was scarred, and it took years to get the area back to normal, and deal with actually the stormwater pollution to the Housatonic River, which brought in the state. So it was a mess for the town. And that's, I guess, a situation
Okay,
where that person didn't have the technical capability to do the project. It was clear.
The language which is here
Okay.
is technical skill and capacity to construct and or complete
Right.
the project. It actually doesn't say anything about the ability to run a
Operate.
business.
No, it doesn't.
So if Tommy, Bobby, and Johnny came in and they've got their bank saying, yes, they have $12 million and they can, each one of them can build this marijuana production facility 5 times over, and their application says that they're going to hire licensed contractors to do the construction and everything else, then the complainer, would that satisfy the requirements of this ordinance?
Yeah.
The building
This is
would,
who's gonna
the
do it,
building,
we have the technical capability to do it.
the building would, well, they might not have the contractor. I have a problem with the sequencing.
Well, if they were to say, this is our intent, this is our plan, this is what we're gonna do.
How about this, what if the word skill was replaced with the word resources?
I like that. A skill would, on some things, would be either hard to determine, or I'm afraid could be abused by us.
It's implied that it's inherent in the applicant as opposed to
Right,
having access to.
yeah.
I
Yeah, I want to take away from that individual.
I like that too.
Yeah, I like that.
Now,
Technical resources and capacity.
one other question along those lines.
Okay.
We've had it.
Again, that works.
That's beautiful, yeah. What happens if we have engineer or anything else? And it's all been approved along the way. And the engineer doesn't come back and check it, and we later come and find out it was as built, it's one of those as built, not necessarily going across,
I've had that happen.
the engineering.
That would never happen.
How do we cover that? As built, or turn on what it says?
Well, what we're trying to do is reduce the potential for failure, Marty, but we aren't going to eliminate the chance for failure.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if,
Otherwise, we wouldn't have enforcement issues, right?
You need a crystal ball to use your.
no, I'm just saying follow-up.
But there always is a follow-up though, isn't there?
My crystal ball, though, you laughed at my crystal ball for so many years.
I just saw
That's why I brought it up.
Marty,
There's part of it right there.
No, it's not, that's not my wet dream.
You can't see it, there's a,
There's a-
there's a quarter of a, yeah.
But my
Okay.
question is, how do we cover that? We have a plan, and the plan isn't followed.
That is,
It's
our job
code
is to
enforcement.
approve the application. The failure of code enforcement of the town of Arundel is not our job.
That's correct.
Yeah, we expect they will follow up and inspect it.
Yes.
And then why do we have to come back and do a recite walk over again to see how, where they've turned around and already did it in their
That-
way?
That only happened, Marty, the specific instance you're talking about is where someone, where an applicant came in with a subsequent application to change the use of something that had been approved. That was a very unusual circumstance.
I think I can think of 3 unusual circumstances in the past 2 years.
So do
Well,
we,
yeah, I can think of at least 2, so.
go into 10.64, we do the same thing on, 10?
Yeah, one is for
Yes.
conditional use permits and one is for site plan.
So instead of technical abilities, we change it to technical resources.
Right. Set of skills, resources.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
now,
sorry.
I have a question. One of them says,
Resources.
one says technical resources and capacity. The other says technical resources to construct.
The language should be the same.
Should we,
for both.
it should be the same.
Yeah,
I
I think
suggest
so.
that we strike the words and capacity.
Yeah, and the word satisfactorily is in one, not the other.
No.
Where,
Yeah, the top standard is satisfactorily demonstrated, the bottom ones just say has demonstrated.
Okay, satisfactorily. Yeah, they should be the same.
Should be the
do
same.
we want to include the word satisfactorily or not, gentlemen?
No, if they've demonstrated that they have the financial
Satisfied.
resources, by definition, they've satisfied
Yeah.
the issue.
Good.
Okay, so we're gonna delete the word satisfactorily from 9.2.9. Thank you, Tom.
Here, I've got to go in here, I think.
Okay, all right, now, I'm sorry, Rich, I think I was not present at the meeting. I talked to several people who were. My sense of that last special meeting was that the amendments to the land use ordinance were rejected because
Of an individual who sat over there.
because of
It was a no.
individuals who were antagonistic toward the planning board and anything we did or the air we breathed, as opposed to any thoughtful consideration of the applications. And in fact, I even heard from the town manager that he spoke with one of the individuals about the screening and buffering afterward, and their response was, well, I actually hadn't read it, and what's here makes perfect sense. This was one of the representatives of the Arundel Conservation Trust, who apparently had been adamantly opposed to it freely admitted to Keith that they hadn't read it. And furthermore, that after they did read it, they thought it was a good idea. So,
No surprise.
Rich, I don't know what you, you know, if you wanna shelve this stuff until next time around, you know, until 2019, we can. And as a general principle, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. In the specific instance of the last meeting, I suggest that we make an exception and that we bring these things back, hoping that we will get rational consideration of them, as opposed to just an emotional rejection.
No. Was there 17 at that meeting?
At the special meeting?
Yeah.
There were 53.
50, I mean, almost as many as the regular
Yeah.
town meeting, I mean, because Town meeting only gets 75.
Yeah.
But,
I will be the first one to admit, there were almost as many people at a regular town meeting, and it was stacked against us.
but we've made changes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
we made changes.
So, I mean, if, on that basis, we have made changes, why not resubmit?
I won't argue that, we've made changes, I was not willing to submit exactly the same thing.
Okay, all right. May I, do we have a motion on the floor about item 5 yet?
No, I was gonna make a motion to that effect,
With,
with the
With
changes
changes.
as indicated.
May I suggest, gentlemen, that we could at least circulate what we're, or read what were
Yes.
our revisions?
why don't you pass it around your version,
No,
yes.
Is that the,
Just read it.
That's the same, well, that's the same, right? It's the exact same as yours.
Resources, I wanted to strike the capacity, Jens,
did we discuss that?
yes.
Resources
No,
and
no.
capacity.
Yeah, we discussed it different, they should be the same, but,
They should be the same,
No, we're talking about the use of the word "and" capacity.
yeah.
Right.
yes.
Right,
So it should be
because
up-
it's not in, it's
It
not
should be
in-
down below too, correct?
Well,
Add that down below.
it either should be down below or not be there at all. If they have the technical resources,
And capacity.
I don't like and capacity because the applicant may not have the capacity. They may be hiring the capacity.
When they, and that's what they'll say in their statement of technical capacity. You know, they'll say, I'm gonna be hiring this person, and that shows that they have the, they're going to have the technical capacity to do it, that's how you write the letter. They'll probably say exactly what this says here, and they'll give you the reasons why. These guys are going to do the engineering, these guys are gonna do the construction, and then we're gonna get these guys.
God damn it,
and these guys.
you still have the timing problem, that you get the permit before you hire the actual person that's going to do the work.
Then they'll say, I'm going to get an engineering firm that has the capacity to do this.
But wouldn't we also have the plans in front of us first?
But
I
it's
would-
not who's doing it.
I would make the suggestion that we strike everything that says, to do with technical skills or capacity. I tend to agree with Jens, if you've got the finances to do it,
That's Chip,
That-
not Jens.
well, no, Jens made the same thing, but, and you're right, you did as well, but if you've got the financial resources, you're gonna hire the technical skill.
No, you aren't. No, you aren't. No, I'll give you 5 examples off camera.
Well, I can think of one right down the road, who, well,
That's
he
the one
didn't have the
I've been thinking
financial
of.
resources either.
But you wouldn't have a permit, you won't get the permit until you prove it to you that you can.
That's right.
We need something
the
that's
whole purpose.
clear and that applicants can understand. But I think we need to have something. It simply needs to be clear.
Okay, does the board want it to say in both places, technical resources and capacity to construct?
Yes.
Yes.
I wish this said the same.
We'll make it so.
We can.
Resources and capacity to construct and or complete the project as approved. Okay, this is, that's what, Roger, will you please pass that on?
Yep.
Everybody look at it.
So that's,
That's what the motion is.
That's my motion.
Corinne's gonna take a picture of
I
it.
am,
I don't blame you.
I'm not gonna, I'm messing around with this.
All right. That's our secretary.
Thank you, Corinne.
You have the technical skills to
That
do
goes
that?
back up that way, huh?
Yes,
And the capacity-
yes, I do.
Wait a minute, and the capacity, she's got the
She
phone.
has the resources, the
I will
phone,
second
and the
Roger's
capacity.
second Roger's motion. That was
Okay.
your motion, right?
Yeah,
Now, this for both of them or just one? You do-
for,
Both.
both of them.
Okay. I do have a little bit of discussion on this. It has nothing to do with the wording. It has to do with, in the 10.6.4, all of, there are no 1 through 9, it's 13 through 21 for some reason. I think
Yeah, that's gonna be fixed, that's,
So-
don't worry about it.
Okay, so
And I
that,
can fix that without going to town meeting.
okay,
That's
good.
true.
You can, good,
Yep,
all right.
You wanna do
Actually, it's already been fixed, you don't have the copies,
Okay,
but it's been
so it's
fixed.
fine, okay, good.
Yeah, nobody knows how that happened. Sim printed it out and she said, I don't know how that happened.
I know exactly how that happened.
Yeah.
It's one of those Microsoft Word delights.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
move the question.
Can we mark this as Exhibit A and vote on the, and make a motion for acceptance of Exhibit A?
we already have a motion, we already have a motion and a second. As far as further discussion, I object to the capacity word, to the word capacity being added there. However, I would like to move this forward. So, I have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion of this? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Jens. And everybody else. Okay.
That's two down.
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder, we have to have it here.
Okay, item number 4.
Something simple so I can go home and eat.
All right, item number 4 is public hearing. This was my idea. I'm sorry, no, it isn't. Why is the notification period being shortened?
Because of the post, because
Maybe it was my idea. This was to facilitate.
This was missed when we went, we combined and made sure everything from subdivision to site plan to staff, all the 7 days because of changes done at the Journal. They're making it impossible for us to do a 10-day notification without extending people
Right,
past
okay,
2
this was my idea, okay. Was this voted on, was this brought to the special town meeting?
No, this was one that was missed. This was this was one that we thought we got and.
Okay, may I please have a motion relating to?
I move that we approve changing it from 10 to 7 days.
A second.
Okay, do we have any discussion? I was in Tad's office and talking to him about the timeline and was frustrated, and this is the fix. So we get things done. From the first meeting in the month to the second meeting in the month, with a newspaper, it's ridiculous, but anyway.
It's got
Okay,
worse.
any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, hallelujah. Okay. We're rocking now, guys.
Speed bump up ahead.
What are we looking at now?
Okay, may I respectfully request that we go to animal husbandry, and there's a reason that I would like to tackle this one before we have to turn into pumpkins.
Great.
And may I suggest one thing, Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
That you've already approved equestrian and you've already approved landscape to go to town meeting. So I'm not sure why we're doing it again.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So-
the only thing, I think equestrian was brought back up because we
Equestrian, I'm
had,
not happy with it.
because we had, the second, when we had Milda and the other one here, that was after town meeting. Okay, so this is addition to the equestrian to add that section in.
Right,
So I mean, that's,
but I thought you folks, I have already approved those changes.
we did, but we didn't turn us, say it to go to town meeting.
Thank you, yeah, but, all right, fine, I don't wanna rub the chairman off, he wants to get the animal husbandry. I know we did the landscape, I know we did the landscape, that was done in almost the second.
But the landscaping and buffering, that was brought up in its current form at the special town meeting and voted down, correct?
And this board voted to take it back to town meeting as was without a change.
When,
I don't think you were here. It was
clearly I wasn't here, but I don't remember.
It was done.
I'm not saying it wasn't, I'm just,
See, what's
we
your
did it,
particular
it's not
interest in
really-
animal husbandry?
I'm sorry, what was that, Roger?
So what are we tackling on animal
Are,
husbandry?
are you, Patty, are you telling me that there are two items on my agenda that didn't need to be there in the first place?
Pretty much.
Huh?
I wasn't sure if you wanted to reconsider something. I was just saying.
There are things in the questions table that I wanted to reconsider. Landscaping buffering, I was okay with, but I do wonder if we should just spend 5 minutes, maybe, going over the landscaping and buffering changes.
Okay.
What's being changed here, and just make sure that it is, that everybody wants to take this as is to town meeting on landscaping buffering.
I should mention also, I have spoken to, and gone over this with some of the people who are objecting at that town meeting. Some members of ACT, I've already had a meeting with members of ACT.
Yes.
So we've already voted on this.
If we have, then
If we
why
have,
are
I don't wanna vote on
I
it again.
agree.
I don't wanna vote on it either.
Well, I'm merely asking, gentlemen, if you will look at it, if there are any changes you want to suggest. It seems to me we voted on it, we brought it to town meeting, it was voted down. Don't we need to take action to resubmit it?
But that's my point. If I understand the town plan correctly, we've already taken that action. And we've said, send it back the way it is. And if
When was that done, Ted?
Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right.
If we did this, I don't wanna look at
It was
it
in
again.
February, I should be copies of minutes, but I will find out for you.
I have the February minutes.
Yeah, it's the 22nd.
I think it was early.
Well,
It'd be at the end.
question.
Yeah. I think it was the 22nd.
Land use ordinance, proposed.
No, that's a
When was the
question.
special
That's a
town
question.
meeting?
That was a question.
When was the special town meeting?
January.
In January, okay, that's all I needed.
I wasn't there either.
Yeah, Jens and I were the only ones that made it.
So it was either last meeting in January or it was probably the first meeting in February. It was February 22nd, it wasn't that.
Okay.
So how about if you could, if it wasn't done, we'll revisit this next meeting, okay?
Question.
Question again.
Landscaping.
I'm sorry, what?
No, it doesn't look like it is.
Well, continued development of the recommended street.
Tree manual, yeah.
So it may have been the earlier February meeting. Next meeting after.
Yeah, that was the
Okay,
meeting.
gentlemen, can we set this aside and
Yep.
vote on it at the next meeting if necessary?
Next meeting, you have to set the public hearing date, because you will be out of time to make town meeting.
Which is precisely why I wanted to go over all this stuff today. Just to make sure that nobody had any, anything that they felt needed to be changed. I don't have any issues with the landscaping and buffering. So we can, does anyone else, is everybody
I
else?
wanna reread it, I mean,
All right, well, reread it for next time, Marty.
Yes.
Okay?
thank you.
All right. Is that acceptable to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Set aside, okay, and if it's already been voted on, I sure as heck don't wanna vote on it again.
I will find it out.
Okay,
On the exact date. Apologize for not having that with me.
Now, you wanted to go over animal husbandry,
now let's talk about horses.
huh?
Horses.
Horses, I thought that was all settled.
Is horses all settled? Has that been, was that voted on as is?
What was the meeting with Milda when she was here? Was that a month ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a result, this is a result of the changes,
Didn't do it.
but we've never
We
voted on it.
never really did, go, okay, so,
Oh, so this is the first time it's in black and white.
yeah, okay, since that meeting, this is the first time we're looking at it.
Well, we went round and round on it, and we finally got it about,
So the input for this,
outside training.
so the input for this, ordinance change came from the equestrian community.
Right, yeah.
So we should look at it and vote on it.
It came from two people.
Two people, okay, well,
One of whom, I would argue, was not a member
Oh.
of the equestrian community, although they have horses on their own land.
okay.
Okay,
Closer than
the issue, I had an issue with 9.3.19, 1B as in Bravo, maximum number of horses boarded. This is not horses owned by, these are horses that are being, that they are receiving revenue.
Not-
I,
I agree
are
with
you trying to pith me?
Am I thinking?
You're thick eating, no, pith, as in you stick the needle in the frog's head and scramble its brains. I object to the maximum of 10 equines being boarded at what is supposed to be a hobby farm. By the time you are getting paid to keep 10 horses, you are a business, in my personal opinion. But I don't know what other people think, and I'm perfectly willing to discuss that, make compromises, or even,
And I agree with you completely.
I think the number should be 6, period.
In all districts?
The maximum number of horses boarded, I believe, should be 6. To qualify as an equestrian stable. The idea is that this is supposed to be a hobby farm.
Well, none of that, it's in the R1 district.
No, the R1 district is already 6. I'm suggesting
Yeah, but
that,
why bring it up to 10? I agree with you.
No, he doesn't wanna bring it up to 10, he wants all other districts brought from 10 down to 6.
yes.
Okay.
We had a
precisely.
big discussion on that.
We had a massive
I
discussion.
know we had a massive discussion, and I know who objected to it, and I know why, and I disagree.
I had a problem with that too.
Boarding 10 horses is, again,
Business.
my thought was equestrian stable was supposed to be hobby farm.
So they're allowed up to 10.
Up
and
to
they can-
10.
And they can have 10 of them can be boarding, so it's not really their horses.
No, it's not.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we change section 9.3.19.1B, maximum number of horses boarded in all districts.
1 equine per acre up to a maximum of 6 equines
In all districts.
the boarders.
in all districts, fine. Dependent foals and yearlings shall be exempt up to age 2.
Yep. I got no problem with that.
Yeah, that's fine what you guys just
But, for discussion,
Yes, sir.
we also turned around and said up to 10 as long as they turn around and had certain acreage. That's where we, when we changed it,
Now, Marty, it's not the number of horses on the property that I object to, it's the number of horses boarded. When you are boarding a horse, you are receiving some kind of compensation for keeping the horse. So it's someone else's horse that's on your premises.
I like my question though, there is nothing in here, I thought we discussed it.
Yeah, we did.
About the number of horses per acre, whether it's boarded or not, yeah, I think we lost that here.
Yeah, but this,
We have a
this
minimum lot
this is
size of
dealing
2 acres.
specifically with the number of horses boarded.
Oh, I agree with that, but I think we have to also add someplace else. That
Yeah,
you,
what happened to that?
I don't
You're
know.
right, that used to,
Yeah, it wasn't-
universally, we were using.
Yes.
We were using 1 horse per half acre, or 2 horses.
No, because we had that big discussion and then we had it so
Everybody was
that,
fine with that too.
I mean, yeah, and that's where everything got settled. I mean, but now it's,
Okay, then what we're suggesting, I think, is to have, if I may, a section B, which says the maximum number of horses limited to no more than 1 equine per half acre.
Maybe both those got combined into B, because we don't have to list out or specify that 1 border per acre.
That this was, quite frankly, this language, what's in B was changed by a lawyer in a lawyerly manner for the lawyer's benefit.
I think it was just an error, something was pulled out
No,
unintentionally.
No, this was done quite deliberately.
They're all evil.
Well, I would point out that we are not talking about commercial equestrians or equestrian centers, we're talking specifically about equestrian stables, also known as a hobby farm, and that's 6 horses being boarded, you're talking a couple of $1,000s a month, it's not a small operation. They're generating a fair amount of income.
Okay,
We all
what-
agree
what-
with that, I think.
What about the suggestion of it's limited to 1 horse per half acre? So for example, if you have a 2-acre lot, no matter what zone you're in, you have a 2-acre lot, you are limited to 4 horses. That's a lot of horses for 2 acres. If you
Yeah.
have a 3-acre lot, you're limited to 6 horses.
Didn't we settle
we-
on one
we
one
went-
per acre? I thought?
we were going from 1,
Let's be consistent with the animal husbandry thing, if we're gonna be
That-
2 cows per acre, so why not 1 horse per half
Corinne has
acre?
it.
Yeah.
I have the minutes
You have the minutes?
How
from
many horses asses can you
February
have in a farm?
22nd.
It was February 22nd.
How many can you have in a planning board?
No, this was March
Look
1st.
in the mirror.
You got March 1st?
According to the date on this, it's March 1st.
March 1st being, that's when
So February 22nd could very well be the
That's
minutes.
when it was, that's
Yeah.
the minutes of it. I think I corrected it on March 1st.
how did it read?
Well, the first motion was, Mr. Ganong motioned that land use ordinance 9.3.19B be revised to state that 1 equine per half acre up to a maximum of 10. In the R1, only 1 equine per acre up to a maximum of 6 will be allowed.
Was that for a number of horses boarded?
I have nothing in here talking specifically about boarding, these are just numbers for horses as a
Yeah,
whole.
And-
you know where this came from.
Yeah, and I think it was, I think it was boarded, I think it was set that way originally.
Right.
There was a lot of discussion about boarding, but
Yes,
then,
that was the topic.
but it
It
was,
was.
I
But
thought, my
let's,
memory,
can we separate those two, please?
Yes.
So that we have a section on, I like Mr. Ganong's suggestion of 1 horse per half acre. So the maximum number of horses owned or boarded, I don't know if we need to be explicit
Yeah,
about
no, I
that.
don't, because the discussion revolved around the fact that, not
Horsemen.
so much that they were boarding horses, but the fact that they had friends who had horses and they'd bring them over and they'd all ride together and train together.
Right.
So we compromised and said, yes, you can have other horses, they just can't be boarded there, which is where the 10 horses came from.
My, if I may,
Yeah.
recollection was, the issue of enforcement was going to be nearly impossible
Yep.
for the boarding. That's why it was boarded in this format. And then it went on to discuss, the last motion on that topic was, Mr. Begin motions that the board remove, quote, provided training is limited to those equines being boarded on the property. Mr. Lowry seconded.
Okay, and I understood the public's objections to that provision. Okay, so the issue is not perhaps well, seems to me there are two different issues. One is, how many horses are living on the property? And that's where I think we ought to be,
Let's say,
it's one horse per half acre.
Right. So, that term, number of horses boarded is universal through the other two.
So
Nice.
someone could own 4 horses, and they could board 4 more, and that adds up to 10, as long as they had 5 acres.
If they had 4 and they
my,
bought 4.
but my
they-
objection to that is that we'll go back to the fact that this is a hobby farm.
I understand your objection.
I'm sorry, a hobby farm means you own the horses and you're not doing this,
I do think, well, there is the enforcement problem, but it is extremely common for someone to have 4 stalls or 5 stalls and own 2 or 3 of the horses and have 2 more that they're just economies of scale in terms of purchasing the hay and shoveling the manure and it, having done it for a whole lot of cows, that you,
then
It's worse for horses, you don't have to brush a cow.
true.
if we're going to take that aspect of it into consideration, then I would say that no more than 40% of the animals that are boarded can belong to someone other than the property owner.
Now, 50%.
I'd settle for 50, but at some point, I wanna make sure that this is not a business being run by a hobby farm owner.
No, I actually was thinking the exact same thing about 5 minutes ago. So, can we do something so that we have two different sections here? One is, there is a limit the number of horses that can be kept to 1 horse per half acre.
Yep, you got that, one horse
Okay.
per now, okay.
Okay, and then the maximum number of horses boarded and owned,
Owned and boarded.
owned and boarded by other, how do you,
So the.
Jens, help me out here. It's not the property
the
owner.
It would be, the property owner must own at least 50% of the animals being boarded.
That's it, okay.
The only problem on that is, okay, I see 2 problems there. One, we've already went through all this with the horse people, okay? And the fact, and because we had said we would readdress it just for hobby farm or whatever you wanna call it for horses. We're coming back now and changing something before it goes to town meeting and they don't know anything about it, You're gonna turn around,
We're gonna have a public hearing, Marty, and they're gonna have an opportunity to come and talk to us about it, and if they don't like what we've done, we most certainly need to consider that prior to recommending that what we're writing goes to town meeting.
do we have enough time for all, 2 public hearings? That's where I'm going at.
We have enough time for one.
We have one. And that'll be close.
But, it just came back the first time we're all looking at this, and I don't recall why we came up with 6.
Yeah, this.
No, we didn't, we said
So-
10.
No,
So,
we said 6 in the R1.
You said a 6 in the R1, that was.
Okay, R1,
Okay, do we wanna add that to the introductory part? 10 equines or less are kept?
down Old Post Road. Is that R1?
You could add that up here.
No, 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 Old Post Road, Log Cabin Road.
No. Limerick Road.
Wait, this and that are the exact same sentences, so they should. swap them.
Except that this is the definition,
Right,
so you could put it in the definition.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so equestrian stable, the definition, a facility where 10 equines or less except in,
No, just,
In other words, yeah.
the definition,
Just
just
leave
leave
it
the
that way.
definition and just add the statement that says that horses that are boarded, that the,
It should just say,
no, we could, forget the board, we're talking about the R1. Do we want to limit R1 to 6 equines regardless of acreage?
yes.
I'm,
That's where we went round and round, because if somebody owns 20 acres on R1, you tell him he can't have more, because that's where we went in our whole discussion.
Absolutely, because they're trying to run a business in the R1 zone, and I'm opposed to it. And that was the compromise we ended up reaching.
okay, all right, but let's,
We got 9:45, gentlemen.
okay, well, let's finish this equestrian thing, please. Do we have general agreement that we want R1 limited to a total of 6 horses, regardless of lot size? Marty, you disagree, I understand that. Tom, where do you stand on that?
I don't have a strong stand, I think if there are a few lots with 20 acres and I don't see the harm in allowing them to have more horses.
So somebody who has 5 acres in R1 would be allowed to have 10 horses on it?
No, according to this, it'd be
According
allowed
to
to have
this,
5.
No, I'm,
It's 1 per acre.
One per acre in the R1.
oh,
That's the restriction.
okay, I'm sorry, that's what's written here, I'm trying to.
are we affecting any existing owner right now
No.
with those numbers
Well, we are.
Not in the R1?
in R1?
Name Mary Stables. But they're gonna be
Grandfather?
they're gonna be a dog.
But she
So
still has her horses.
I know. She's got 5 or 6 horses, I
Well,
think. She's got 10 acres.
She would be grandfathered though, right?
No, she's not
We didn't
licensed
say
as a
that.
stable.
We haven't said that. We never put a grandfather's statement in. But yeah, she would. The problem is, the facility is grandfathered, but the number of horses may not be. You know, that's the problem.
Because she's had a riding stable there before.
Huh?
I mean, she's
She's
done
got
it.
fewer horses now, but that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that she wants
but
to
it-
resume.
Yeah, so I mean, doesn't mean,
But she's the only one I know in the R1 district. R1 district goes from Limerick Road, up to, all the way up to New Road. It includes all of the, actually, it doesn't go all the way to Limerick
No,
Road.
it doesn't, because I'm in the R2.
It goes up to the turnpike. And it's
Yeah.
R2 from the turnpike on up to about where,
MG Lane.
yeah, MG Lane's Snazzy Pet, I was gonna
Yep.
say, same sort of thing. Then the area there is R1, which is basically Rogers neighborhood, up at Clearview Acres, Alpine, and then New Road.
Yep.
Basically, that's the.
Yeah, I was
other one.
thinking down to
So really
like the
won't
power
affect-
line.
There's only one
I don't
that's
think so.
affected.
No, okay.
Okay, let me throw something out. What if in the R1 district, it were 1 equine per acre up to, without a maximum?
Yeah, when they, there's your limitation, right there, I mean,
So,
you're just
so,
cutting
so
in.
if you have 10 acres in R1, you could have 10 horses. Is that acceptable, gentlemen?
Not to me.
It's a lot of horses for our one district.
If you're conducting a business in the R1 at that point.
Okay,
Okay.
but some of them were like her, she was there before tournament, and she had the horse farm before the tournament, we came in with this.
All right, I'll stick with the 6, eliminate
Six?
6, yeah.
I'm okay with the 6 also.
He
I'm
just
just
turned around and
trying
said
to,
1 acre,
trying to get this
made
done.
a,
Up to
Okay.
6.
no, he just said up to acre, you could have up to 10, he just said.
Yeah,
No.
but so I'm,
No,
Why don't you make a motion for the 6?
okay,
okay.
what, can we try to get the whole thing? I don't know, actually, I don't know, do we wanna do in pieces, or do we wanna try to get the whole thing?
I'm
Well-
perfectly willing to leave it right where it is.
Yeah.
Maximum number in the R1, 1 per acre up to 6, and in all other districts, 1 per half acre up to a maximum of
Up
10.
to 10, but that's, it says horses boarded.
Yep.
Do we want to add a restriction on
The number of horses that are.
In the-
not owned by the property owner?
No.
I would like to, but I think in
Why?
enforcement, because I think that if somebody has, if somebody has 5 acres and they have 10 horses, none of which belong to them,
They're running a business.
they're running a business, it's not a hobby farm.
And this is supposed to be the hobby farm. We've got the other two, we've got 2 other ones, 2 other classifications for them to be able to run a full business,
You know, one of the things that's, that I think is important here is, I want to work toward preserving as much of the agrarian aspect of this town as possible, because you can't ever get it back once it goes, ever. And this is maybe almost collateral to what we're discussing now, but there's some relationship there, I think. I just don't think it's very realistic that we're gonna be confronted with people suddenly wanting to have horse boarding businesses and have that be an imposition on their neighbors. The likelihood of that is remote in the extreme, it seems to me. But I think we're just, I think we should really be guardians of whatever we can do to preserve the farm and agrarian aspect of this.
Don't disagree with me. I think the problem comes in is when is the activities associated with the commercial. And you heard Mildred say, right then and there, she says, I bring all my friends into their trailers to have a training at my place. Now, she's in the R4.
But that's not animals that live there,
Right.
and so,
You're gonna address that, right?
I'm going to withdraw my idea of trying to limit the horses that are boarded, because it's unenforceable. I don't think we should be passing regulations that are utterly unenforceable.
And that may be why we decided.
I
this
think
one.
that is why we decided. Now, okay, so I think I think we come full circle to leaving it
Right, what's that?
right where it is. There was one other thing, and I apologize, gentlemen, for bringing it up at this late hour, but the driveway design requirements, I object to for the equestrian stables.
15-foot wide driveway?
The two-lot private way, whatever, I'm specifically thinking about the lady who's on River Road, right by the railroad track. And I think it is completely unreasonable for this board to pass an ordinance that requires her to make improvements to her driveway in order to continue keeping horses on that property.
And she's been there.
She's been there
Before
for long,
78.
I mean,
I agree.
and so I understand my take is, again, we're talking about the hobby farm here, and if Milda's girlfriends try to bring their trucks in and they fall into potholes and get stuck on the side of the driveway,
They'll quit coming to Millis.
it'll quit coming to Milda's.
Agreed.
And so I don't think, I don't have any problems with the Route 1 and Route 111 requirements. I think that is reasonable. But if we're talking about 10 or fewer horses, if we're talking about 10 or fewer horses, I just don't think we should have, other than the Route 1 and Route 111, I don't want to require anything for driveways.
Well, we require a driveway, which is 12 feet.
Yeah, okay, fine. I mean, they have to-
Minimalist, minimalist.
they have to meet the residential driveway requirements, and we don't need to say anything about it.
And I'll just tell you that a two-lot driveway, and it's really a driveway, is 15 feet wide. So we're talking 3 feet difference.
Yes, but I return to, either we explicitly grandfather anybody who has,
And I think we need to.
has
To get their
that.
support, I think we need to grandfather, at least grandfather facilities that exist right now. We're certainly not
For,
gonna.
grandfather them in what's, in terms of driveway, lighting, or everything.
Anything that's existing now,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Well,
I
then
think
how,
that may
oh,
be-
okay, then, again, we get to the enforcement issue of how in the heck do we determine if somebody says, I've been keeping 14 horses in the I've been keeping 9 horses in the R1 district on 3 acres.
I know exactly how we handle it, the same way we did with contractor yard ones. You come in and you register and you get a license to operate your hobby farm. And then you have a record.
How do you establish whether or not they actually had 9 horses that, 2 days prior to their coming in?
But how big a barn they got? If you only got a small barn, you can't fit 9 horses in. If you only got 4 stalls.
Well, you know what, Marty, you got a good point.
that's not a bad point at all.
It's not a
That's a
bad
great
point at all.
But I think the idea, because we did it
Giddy
with
up and
contract,
roll.
we did it with yard ones, we said if you want it, yard ones or yard twos, if you wanna have a yard, you have to come in and register it and get licensed. And I think we should do the same thing here. If you're going to claim that you have a stable, an equestrian stable, and you only have 6 or 8 horses, then you have to come in and register and show that that's the case. Otherwise, because after this ordinance is adopted, you have to meet these standards, and anybody that comes in and wants to do this is gonna have to get licensed anyway.
Okay.
We have a
Let me ask though.
Minimum limit, what if someone had 2 horses?
Even somebody coming in, building a new house, I don't understand why we are regulating their driveway. Seems
Well,
to me-
example, like, I
seems
think we
to me
got
the driveway
on
is their
Brimstone
problem.
Pond, they wanna put in, they're turning around talking about that one house they wanna put in the back.
I will tell you why we regulate driveways. It's very simple, there's two reasons. Number one is to ensure that, there's three reasons. One is retention of property value. Two is availability or accessibility of services.
Like it trucks.
Three is accessibility of emergency vehicles. When I say accessibility of service trucks, I will tell you, there was a road here that staff dealt with, that you guys didn't have to deal with, where it had two residents in there would have to walk down the road to pick up stuff from, drop-offs from FedEx and from UPS because they would not go up the road to deliver. I was talking to a oil delivery service that told me there are roads they will not go up in Kennebunk. To deliver oil. For that
Okay,
reason.
I understand that, but you're talking about roads, you're not talking about a driveway.
I'm talking about driveway, they're talking about roads and driveways. But you want a driveway that's 12 feet wide, so you can get an ambulance up there without getting it stuck.
12 feet wide that's the requirement for a driveway, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, you said you didn't see any reason to have the requirements for any driveway.
I'm sorry, I don't know, that's not what I meant. I meant, I don't see the need for additional, more stringent requirements for driveways for a hobby horse farm.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that in 913-9-1D1 be stricken.
Do I have a second for that,
Driveway
please?
shall be constructed to the dimensional requirements of a two-lot.
Okay, any further discussion of that?
Yeah, I would just question, will there be any standard for driveways at all?
We already have standards. What we're saying here is that
We have
driveways
no
for
additional.
stables will not be the two-lot.
Okay, so,
How about if we just say dimensional standards for a residential driveway?
Fine.
Yeah, that would work too.
yeah.
So I'll amend my motion to say that it's replaced with the dimensional requirements of a driveway.
My second still stands.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries.
Time to leave.
Gentlemen,
Yeah.
well, we didn't finish this, I guess.
We finished the question, did we not?
Well, no, we didn't, because we didn't address the grandfather issue. Mr. Planer, can you please?
Yeah.
Is it,
Yeah, there's an
does that have to get in the way of moving this along?
I make a motion, we issue a grandfather clause so this can be finished.
I can't say that without seeing the language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to see the language.
An existing horse farms?
Okay, all right, gentlemen, I'm afraid that we're turning into pumpkins. I'm hungry.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Done.
Doesn't require a
I
vote.
know.
Public hearing has gotta be scheduled, we may need another meeting. We may need another meeting, gentlemen, because I don't see how we're gonna get animal husbandry, we might as well just either give up on animal husbandry and not taking that, to the town meeting.
That wouldn't look good.
Probably not, and you too, I know you've adjourned, but the simple fact of the matter is that you also have a meeting with the selectmen next meeting, on the
A
22nd.
half hour, the selectmen have demanded an audience to talk about private ways.
That's on our Thursday or their?
Our Thursday.
That's on the 26th?
Yes.
When was that made?